across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock as usual, and at midnight it is your chance to talk back. And there's a study out at the moment about dentistry. Healthwatch England, the patient watchdog, has been looking into how to access urgent dental care, and it's been an increasing challenge, with some people forced to travel up to 100 miles. And it's now being said that it is the biggest class divide in this country, is the state of your teeth. So that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. Is some of these figures, some of these statistics, and some of these stories are absolutely, well, tooth curling. I mean, it is horrific. When was the last time you tried to access emergency dental care? What was that like? I had to do this for my son recently. He had an infection. So I'll go through all of that with you. They were pretty good actually at 111, I have to say. They got us in to see somebody. But what shocked me is that we went into the pharmacist, and I've been to the pharmacist before when I've had a sore throat to get antibiotics. So I said to the pharmacist, can we have antibiotics for dental pain? And they won't give them, which I thought was a bit stupid. So she said, we cannot give antibiotics for dental pain. I mean, that would save so much time and effort if they just did that. Anyway, when was the last time you tried to access emergency dental care? It is now being reported that we go years now in between dental appointments because the cost is just too high, even for some people within the NHS pricing, if you can find an NHS dentist. This is a whole review looking at NHS dentistry and seeing just how awful it is. And some people, like I said, having to travel 100 miles to get emergency dental care. So that's what I want to talk about at midnight. So please do give me a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number that you need. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222. So please do get in touch with me about that. So coming up for the rest of the programme, back by popular demand, I have to say, although I'm not so sure, Petrie Hosken will be here to go through the newspapers with me, and that of course is my big brother, who is not just here because he's my big brother. He's here because he is a journalist of enormous standing, actually. I won't say it when he's here, obviously. But he was a journalist at the BBC for many years. He's written books. He's a very smart cookie. Like I said, you tell him I said that and I will deny it. So he will be here. It'll be interesting to ask him about the BBC story as well, which I absolutely will. So he's going to be here to go through the papers. Then we are talking to a dentist about the dentist story. Also, we're going to be talking about totalitarianism and fascism. And the reason we're doing that, we're talking about tech bros, we're talking about the power, I mentioned it yesterday in the papers, we're talking about the power that is now in the hands of individuals and no longer in governments. You've got people like Musk, you've got people like Palantir and Facebook and all of these, and X, and all of the power and influence that they now have over us mere mortals, looking at a new era of a technocracy. So we'll be looking at that as well. So that's all coming up in the next few hours. But let's turn our attention to this story. And I know a lot of people have been talking about this today. It is a big story, and that is the BBC and Donald Trump. The US President Donald Trump has filed billions and billions of dollars lawsuit. I keep saying 10 billion or 5 billion, but I'm going to rest on 5 billion, I think, lawsuit against the BBC, where he alleges the corporation's Panorama documentary portrayed him in a false and defamatory way. The BBC has apologised has said that it will defend itself and it's not going to pay any compensation. Now, defamation is a very specific lawsuit. It is very specific, and it involves your standing being diminished in the eyes of right-thinking people, right, basically. You've got to prove that somebody has changed their attitude towards you and that it has impacted you in some financial or reputational way. So is the BBC right to take Donald Trump on? It could cost, in legal fees, 30 to 70 million pounds to join Donald Trump in court, or they could just pay him off. He'll probably accept 10 million. But then what does that say about the BBC, and what does that say about trust in the BBC? It's very complicated. They found themselves, and it's such a stupid place for them to be. I promise you, it's such a dumb edit. It was ridiculous. They didn't need to do it. It didn't materially, I mean, it changed a little bit, but it didn't really materially change an awful lot. And it's so stupid. I can't even get my mind around it. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Luke Gittos, who's a lawyer and writer at Spiked. Very good evening to you, Luke. I find this so frustrating because all they've done is hand Donald Trump a stick to beat them with, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's appalling that the BBC has placed itself in this position. If you read the 30-page complaint that's been filed in Florida, it's hard to factually disagree with anything that it alleges. It's absolutely clear that they took two pieces of footage and edited them together. And the BBC have not formally responded to the claim yet, but they've hinted at what their defence might be, which is that this was an error, an administrative slip up, or an error of judgment in the moment. And being as generous as we possibly can to the BBC, you can almost see a situation where someone took the two most, I don't know, explosive bits of that speech and thought, well, why not bring them together in order to make the clip itself more impactful? But the BBC has to recognise that you can't do that when you're covering the events around a highly contested political event like the 6th of January. When you're talking about a highly contested presidency, you can't make those kind of editorial errors.
But had they let it run, I mean, when I said it didn't materially change much, if they'd let it just run, he did say those things. It's just putting them together. Are you surprised they didn't have a lawyer look at a programme like that before it was allowed to be aired?
Well, I think what became clear in the BBC's response and the sackings that came from Panorama was that the idea was to let a few heads roll within that particular programme, to paint this as a decision that was taken by editors on the ground, and probably was seen by a lawyer, but I imagine that lawyer probably wasn't told that these two clips were taken at either end of the speech. They probably were told, or perhaps were not told, of the nature of the edit, and that is probably something that the BBC is now going to have to deal with. And that, by the way, will all come out in the course of this case if it is allowed to proceed. The American system is very much like ours, in which we have a discovery process where effectively the BBC will have to hand over anything that assists Donald Trump in his claim, I mean, in normal circumstances. And so we will probably learn a lot more if the BBC don't settle this, which I think you're right to point out is a very big if. But if the BBC don't settle this, there will be a lot of attention paid to the decisions that were taken around this clip. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people at the BBC are extremely worried about that process, perhaps just as worried by that process as they are about any eventual settlement of this case. But I think we also need to just keep in mind how mad this is that Donald Trump is proceeding in this way. I mean, this is the President of the United States, one of our allies, someone who has effectively taken it on himself to enact a personal lawsuit against the national broadcaster of what is supposed to be America's closest ally. This, diplomatically, where does this lead? Is he seriously going to maintain a lawsuit against a British institution whilst at the same time trying to manage relationships between our two countries? It seems that for Donald Trump as a sitting president to effectively enact a personal, and this is personal, there's no political reason for this lawsuit to to be carried out. For him to effectively carry out this personal suit against the BBC seems petty, seems utterly vindictive, seems utterly pointless, and seems politically short-sighted. And I think for all, Trump has achieved some positive things in the United States, but for as long as he continues with these completely bonkers interventions, he still remains a cause of real concern, I think.
And I mean, this is not the first time he's sued a media organisation. I believe he's trying to sue the Wall Street Journal at the moment as well for $10 billion. But the CBS settled, others have settled because they have financial interests and deals they want done, and they know that Donald Trump would block them. But of course, the way he tells it is that they settled because he won, and that's what it looks like, and it weakens the media. And that's why I said in my introduction with the BBC, what does it mean for the BBC reputationally if it settles, if it says, look, 10 million is going to save us all these months, all this time and all this money, and we can just get on with looking at the future of the BBC. But what does that do to them reputationally, and what does that do to the strength of any free media?
Well, I do think the reputation of the BBC is currently in the sink anyway. I mean, this whole scandal, I genuinely don't think people believe that their national broadcaster was capable of something like this. And a programme like Panorama with such a significant reputation, the idea that they would effectively engage in propaganda, I mean, that's what it was. It was an attempt to politically intervene against Donald Trump, and it was wrong. And I don't think people before, in the last 5 or 10 years would have ever believed the BBC capable of it. But if reports are to be believed, something changed at the BBC over the last 10 or 15 years, where they came to see their role as more politicized. They became popular. They became staffed by people with particular ideological agendas. They saw their role less and less about reporting impartially and being totally objective about reporting the facts, and they took a more politicized role, and I think that has absolutely come home to roost for them. And that's why I think a $10 million settlement of this case would probably be no greater affront to their reputation than the affront they've done to themselves. That this is a mess of entirely their own making, and they only have themselves to blame. So I think what needs to happen is they need to get through this somehow. I think an early settlement is probably what will happen. That will be license fee money going to the President of the United States, which feels extraordinary and wrong, but that is almost certainly what is going to happen here. And then the BBC is going to have to take a very long, hard look at itself. It's going to need to realise that impartiality is at the heart of its charter, that its role is not political, that it needs to be upfront and clear with how it reports the facts, and then maybe it can start rebuilding its reputation. And whilst this lawsuit is pathetic and awful and ridiculous, and just the latest actually in a recent series of events which point to Trump's moderate derangement, the BBC has brought it on itself, and for that it only has itself to blame.
Yeah, I completely agree, but as usual with a public service organisation, it's the public that pay, as it always is. Luke, thank you very much indeed. A real pleasure to talk to you. Luke Gittos, their lawyer and writer at Spiked. Well, now to get the US angle. And Jessie Haskins joins me now, who's a US defamation lawyer at J. Haskins Law in New York. Great to see you, Jess. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I read a quote today from somebody in the US who said, Mr. Trump is more likely to win $10 billion with a lottery ticket than his legal action against the BBC. It's very complicated, isn't it? But defamation law, there's a burden of proof on the president to prove that he was damaged by this.
Yes, and not just that he was damaged, and just a minor correction. I'm based in Charleston with my primary practice in Florida. But I think the most significant burden is going to be the standard of actual malice, proving not only that BBC was wrong, but that in publishing it, it essentially entertained serious doubts about the truth and went on to publish it anyways. And this is, I think it's notable just looking at the Fox Dominion case that the judge in that case determined pretty early on that the statements were actually absolutely false. That was beyond dispute. But what got that pending and ultimately why it got settled instead of an ultimate verdict is this issue of actual malice. It can be an exceedingly high standard for public figures such as the president to meet, and I think that may be one of the most significant issues in the case.
Why has he lodged this in Florida? Is he hoping for a friendly judge? Is he...
I think in terms of the statute of limitations, several jurisdictions are 1 year, Florida's 2. Florida's laws, I think, may be relatively more friendly to plaintiffs in general. I can only guess, obviously, as to why he's filing in Florida versus some other jurisdiction.
It's like I was saying to my last guest, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last, that he sues a media organisation. You're either with him or you're against him. So you're either blowing smoke or you are an enemy. And that is very much how Donald Trump views the media, it seems. Is there a sense that he puts in these really exaggerated claims? I believe the Wall Street Journal is somewhere in the region of 10 billion, just to get them to settle, and therefore he can claim a win on that?
I'm sorry, in terms of the exaggerated amount of damages or...
Yeah, in terms of the actual figure he puts on his lawsuits.
I don't know how he comes up with it.
I think he just plucks it out the air. It's an extraordinary thing, though, isn't it, when you try and look at the reputational damage here, because the BBC, of course, are going to claim that it wasn't shown in America, that only those that broke the geolocating system and therefore broke the law themselves were able to see it. And he did go on to become president. So in terms of reputational damage, from a man who fairly often reputationally damages himself, it's quite difficult, isn't it, therefore, to prove that he's been damaged by this?
I think the toughest issue isn't so much going to be damages, but one, this actual malice standard, and two, and looking at the BBC's response, it looks like the other significant issue is going to be the substantial truth doctrine. That, even though there may have been some inaccuracy in essentially juxtaposing one soundbite with another, there are a number of people who actually interpreted Trump's remarks as inciting violence. There's the House committee report. There's the indictment along similar lines.
Exactly.
And so I think the issues of not so much truth, but substantial truth, as well as actual malice, are going to be more of a issue. I mean, assuming that those defenses, for whatever reason, fail, I could see it being a substantial monetary amount, just because it's obviously, I think, at the front and center of public attention. But I mean, I think the damage is not as much of an issue as that it's going to be very difficult to show that there's some kind of malicious intent here.
Yeah, I did want to just clear that up with you as well, that even before this, and like you said, the statute of limitations has passed in many jurisdictions, a lot of people said that he incited violence anyway. Okay, they didn't edit two pieces together, but as you said, there was legal action. There was a lot of people saying that what he did was incite insurrection. It hasn't been proven in a court, but he's now the president. All of these things, again, it feels, look, what the BBC did was disgraceful in terms of journalism. It was absolutely disgusting. But I'm struggling here to think, you know, any right-minded person would be swayed by that when already the president had been accused of doing what that falsely indicated in 12 seconds.
Yes, and I don't think it's just a matter of accusations in terms of what he's been accused of in the past, but I think the interesting aspect of this is it's essentially going, in a sense, to be a relitigation of possibly embarrassing issues and facts in the discovery process that the public may not be entirely aware of in terms of the extent of possible incitement. And so there may be other details that come out through the discovery process, you know, that may almost do more damage in a sense than what has already come to light.
Right. So Donald Trump, I mean, I don't ever see him as a man backing out of this, but he may have bitten off more than he can chew here.
That is a significant possibility, I think.
So it's absolutely fascinating. So is Donald Trump, I have to say. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining me live from the US. Jesse Haskins there, US defamation lawyer at J. Haskins in Law. And he's based in Charleston, but he has his practice in Florida. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock. And of course, at midnight, it is your chance to talk back. And that's exactly what I want you to do, providing you haven't got a toothache or just had tooth surgery, possibly, because I want to talk to you about dentistry. In 2025, this report says, the state of your teeth says more about your class than your accent ever could. In some cases, people are resorting to risky DIY dentistry, such as pulling out their own teeth, as they're being denied emergency care from the NHS. And I listen, I'm just going to say it, right? There is no pain worse than dental pain. I don't care what anybody's ever been through in their life. Dental pain, I think, tops it all. I think it tops it all. It is horrendous, and you just can't escape from it because it's in your head. We've all had it, perhaps. I have more times than I can possibly mention that, you know, oh God, I've got to go for a root canal feeling. But look, a lot of us will try and go to the dentist regularly and make sure that we don't end up in emergency care. But let's be honest, it's too expensive to go too regularly. Actually, if you've got good gums and reasonable teeth, you don't need to go every 6 months. It should be every 1 to 2 years. And it's expensive. It's something you can put off, and most people do until they're in pain, right? Let's be honest about it. Let's just, you know, let's not all just be, oh yeah, we're all perfect. So we know that that is the case. So I want to hear from you if you've been in a position where you've gone, oh, I left it too late. Or, you know, when you get that niggle and you go, no, niggles in your teeth never get better. And you'd think at my age I'd know that, but you don't, do you? You go, oh, ooh, or a little bit of pain. I think I'll leave that. That's what I do. Oh, I think I'll leave that. I'll get better all by itself. That'll be fine. Until we know it, you know, and then what you wake up in the middle of the night going, right, I want to pull my own head off because dental pain is appalling. But I want to hear from you what it was like last time you tried to access emergency dental care. And are doctors any good? If I know pharmacists will not give you antibiotics for dental pain, which seems to me to be utterly ridiculous. I don't get it. So that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. If you've ever done any DIY dentistry, ouch, give me a call. Let me know. 0344 499 1000. This is when I need Bob Mortimer to call me, because I know he does his own dental work. Weirdly, but yeah, so that's the number you need to call, and you can text me, put the word talk and then your message to 87222. Well, this might make feel a bit better, mind you. 26 grand will barely cover a visit to a dentist these days, but you could win it. Here at Talk, we're welcoming in the new year by giving away a massive £26,000, and that is a serious amount of cash to start the new year off with, isn't it? 26 grand. It's our biggest new year cash giveaway, and it could be yours. It's 26 grand for 2026. There you go. Here's how to enter. For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or you can call 0343 423 9761, and lines close on the 9th of January at 12 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. You've got to be 18 plus. This is a network promotion, and full T's and C's can be found at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Do it now, and good luck.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock. And in yesterday's front pages, because we were talking about MI6 yesterday, weren't we, and the possibility or the sacrificing your sons and daughters. And there was a fascinating investigation on Sky today looking at how some technology giants are controlling vast amounts of data and information. Elon Musk's Starlink, for example, now owns more satellites than everybody else combined. Sky News analysis suggests that Starlink now serves 1 in every 140 internet users, up from 1 in every 140,000 just 4 years ago. I think he puts a new satellite up every 5 hours. Crucially, Starlink's growth in users is outpacing regulators around the world, giving way to an uncontrolled concentration of power, where 1 in 5 Starlink users are accessing the services from countries where the company has no license to operate. Control in Musk's hands has been a worry for many, with his other businesses such as X affecting wars and propaganda and even democratic elections. So have we now entered the new age of the technocrat? It's very easy to believe that you have when you see who Donald Trump surrounds himself with. Alex Kemp, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all of these people now have the president's ear. We used to fear the dictator, but who now is controlling them? Let's talk now to Professor Roger Griffin, a totalitarianism and fascism expert from Oxford Brookes University. Professor, it's really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.
This, to me, is an absolutely fascinating stage in human evolution. Do you think that this is where we're heading now, where the power of the globe is in the hands of a few non-political, non-elected people?
Well, yeah. The first thing is the modern world is extraordinarily complicated, and there are all sorts of tendencies and threats to liberal democracy. But one of them is a concentration of power and wealth within a small technocratic elite. And of course, the trouble is, it's not like when power was concentrated in the hands of Hitler or Stalin. This power is ambivalent. It actually does demonstrable good. And if you read into that article on Sky, there's a sort of benign side to the whole Musk vision of the world absolutely covered in satellite communications, which can have amazing humanitarian value, which I don't need to go into, but on the other hand, of course, it accelerates a paradigm shift, as intellectuals like to talk about. It's a shift to a new type of future, a new type of society, and there are some quite serious sociologists and people who sort of think about this, who are deeply alarmed. And in fact, you're asking me questions about this, but today was the day when the last lecture by Rutger Bregman in the series of the Reith Lectures was given precisely, he gave it in Stanford University, precisely about his fear of this new sort of ungovernable, irresponsible, technocratic elite taking over minds and society and wealth. And he's calling for a moral revolution, which I suppose decoded means a sort of pushback by what people like Trump would call the wokes, the liberals, the humanists, the global humanists, the people in Amnesty International, the United Nations, etc., to stop this force which we can't control. So it is, I don't know whether we're in some sort of new watershed in history, but it is fascinating, but it's also deeply disturbing, and people don't quite know how to model it or what to call it.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because prior to all of this additional power that is coming through now in the Trump administration, of course, these companies were so wealthy that they were able to give enormous amounts of money to the Trump campaign, thereby buying themselves a president. You saw it at his inauguration. They were there. They've always got their, they're always talking to Donald Trump. And it's no coincidence, is it, that AI now is completely unregulated in the United States, that they're allowed to do what they like, with they like, when they like, which is terrifying.
In a way, that's traditional. You see, if you go back to, for example, the emergence of the city-state in Italy in the early modern period, I mean, there were backers of power. There were always financial involvements. If you just need to put on Marxist spectacles and see the rise of capitalism and the nexus between money and power. But the more deeply pessimistic observers are talking about this actually being a new sort of constellation of power and influence. And I'd like to introduce anybody who's watching this to a term I must admit, I only came across today. It's called Tesk realism. You can think of it as Tesco realism without the O.
Right.
And it's an acronym, and just look it up because I won't bore you with it. But there's a very influential vein of thought of criticism of what's happening in the world of Musks and the Bezoses, etc., which say that actually there is a danger of a new type of elitism which goes way beyond any sort of belief in a democratic process, because they actually see themselves. I mean, during the financial crisis, people talked about hedge fund managers as the masters of the universe. But these people, there are some people in Silicon Valley and everything that represents symbolically who see themselves as having the fate of humankind in their power. And this has been called techno-fascism. It's been dubbed in this way as Tesk realism. But I think this goes beyond the traditional nexus between wealth and power and points to something much more sinister, because it implies a new sort of elite where there are it is a sort of Hollywood dystopian fantasy that the world becomes a place where there's a very small number of people with access to the creation of algorithms and the domination of the technology, and the rest become a sort of slave society, living out the fantasies and the work processes needed to keep this extraordinarily small new elite going, with the connivance of people like Trump or whatever who need them, but they aren't. That power has moved away from politics towards technocracy, and that is what the dystopian pattern that somebody like this wonderful Dutch visionary Rutger Bregman is trying to combat.
It's looking at the power that these companies have, and the power that keeps expanding as well. We saw with Musk. Let's have a look at Musk as an example. Starting to get involved in, there was air traffic control, for example, getting involved in air defence systems and military systems, let alone implants for people's brains, which can now go on unfettered and uncontrolled. It's hard to see how we fight against that with a moral or an immoral campaign. How do we fight back?
Yeah, well, who's the we, you see? I mean, there are some very, very good sociologists, idealists, humanists, law framers. I mean, you could see, for example, I mean, it doesn't seem to be in the same league, but what Australia is trying to do with the youth access to iPhones, etc., there is a pushback. And of course, the beautiful thing is that whereas there was a fanatical support for Hitler for about a third of the population in the early 30s, that Musk is actually very far from being a dictator figure with some great charisma, and these people come and go. I think what the deep thinkers like Rutger Bregman are better at is looking at long-term tendencies which are really taking place beyond individual plutocrats like Musk or Bezos. And if you think, for example, of China and non-democratic societies where there's an extraordinary development of technology, and a lot of that is related to spying on populations, but of course on warfare, then we really have a sort of terrible scenario. And in a way, it makes the 1948 Declaration of the Rights of Human Rights and the idealism of the United Nations seem really naive, because nobody in 1948, because of, I mean, the United Nations was created to stop another Hitler or another Cold War or whatever, which started in the very year that declaration came out. But I'd like to point out that it took a long time for science to catch up with what was happening with industrialization. Sociology was born at the end of the 19th century by people trying to model what the heck was going on, and you get Max Weber, and you get some major attempts to model what and I think what we need, and it's happening, are some very clever people who pour their research into modeling what's going on, so that we actually start framing laws in liberal democracies to actually harness this sort of stuff. But I think we shouldn't get too dystopian. And can I just point out that if you read or see the film of H.G. Wells' Things to Come, especially at the end of the film, there's a most extraordinary vision of a technocratic society which has been built underground after all the wars, where everything is being run by a small elite again. But H.G. Wells places into this film, or originally the novel, this extraordinary impassioned plea by an artist who tries to point out the absolute vacuity and emptiness and existential patheticness of a society which is all geared just towards technique and technology. And so in a way, this what Bregman was calling for in Stanford, I think is really significant. I'm not saying that one moment is significant, but I think we should all, and your interviews, etc., all part of this, we should all try to retain our own humanity in order for there to be some sort of eventual pushback. And I think actually, just like there's the beginning of the reaction against Trump, even in American society, I think there is a lot of evidence that people are beginning to push back in their minds against the domination of an iPhone algorithm society. We've got to find our new rhythm to counter the algorithm. It's rather pathetic, that. But
no, I like that. I thought that was excellent. I was just sitting here thinking I'd love to be in your lectures.
No, I think you should ask my students before.
I really would. That's absolutely fascinating. I'm going to definitely look up that lecture that you were talking about as well and have a read of that, Professor. I find
tech realism as well.
Tech realism. I'm there. This is right up my alley. I'm fascinated by it, and I'll definitely be speaking to you again, I hope. So thank you, Professor Roger Griffin, a totalitarianism and fascism expert from Oxford Brookes University. Right, quick break. Back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Talk, and just a reminder at the top of the hour, if you've ever wondered what my relatives look like, my brother will be here to go through the newspapers, not because he's my brother, although he did say yes, but because he's also a broadcaster and an author, so he's going to be going through the papers for you. So that's coming up at the top of the hour. Now though, emergency dental care. Let's be honest, most of us wait until it's an emergency, and if you're telling me that you don't, then we can't be friends, I don't think. Because most people do, don't they? Anyway, I do. I'm pretty good now, but I used to. Health Watch England, the patient watchdog, has been looking into how to access urgent dental care and how it's been an increasing challenge for people forced to travel up to 100 miles for emergency dental care to see a dentist. They're forced to go private or even travel abroad or end up pulling their own teeth. Ouch. New government proposals are coming into force in April that aim to help with access to dental emergency services, with dentists in England to be paid more to make sure patients have easier access to emergency appointments. The idea is to incentivise those dentists who stop their NHS-funded work. However, experts are not convinced this will improve dental care. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Dr. Deepak Aulak, dentist and co-founder of the Tooth Fairy app. A very good evening to you, Deepak. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Emergency dental care, why is that in such a state? Why is dental care in such a state at the moment?
Yeah, essentially, where you don't have to go far to see, we're in the middle of a kind of a national dental crisis right now, and we can pinpoint it pretty much to the 3 A's. You know, dentistry is not affordable, it's not accessible, and it's definitely not available either. So what we're seeing is a mass exodus of dentists from the NHS, and the government's starting to take note. You'll see some releases today that the tone of the government's slowly changing, that the system is just not workable, and yes, dentists, we welcome such a position.
An interesting article that I read earlier on today saying in 2025, the state of your teeth says more about your class than your accent ever could. So you can define poverty pretty much by looking at the state of somebody's teeth. Would you agree with that?
It could be an unfavorable truth. Unfortunately, what we're seeing here is certain areas of the country have been decimated. You know, certain areas that are more working class, the Black Country up north, areas near the coast. These are the individuals, like you said, having to travel hundreds of miles, and it is a shame. People are having to do DIY dentistry. We're seeing a rise of that even here at Tooth Fairy. We're seeing people trying to use their garden tools to do some DIY.
Oh, you're kidding! Their garden tools.
It is one of those unfortunate situations, and it's I think some stats have come out just today saying that 4 in 10 people, adults themselves, have visible decay. It's up 28% since 2009. It really is a harrowing kind of situation right now.
I mean, I suppose if there's no alternative, I mean, I was saying earlier on, I don't believe there is any pain worse than dental pain. If you've got an abscess or because you just can't get away from it, and often normal painkillers just don't even touch the side. So how desperate is it out there? What stories are you hearing about, that when people are at that point where you could literally lose your mind from the pain?
Yeah, definitely. So I think 1 in 3 of all paracetamol overdoses at some A&Es, I think Nottingham A&E released some stats many years ago, were due to dental pain.
I'm not surprised. I'm really not.
And as you said, there's a lot of DIY dentistry going up. We're seeing a 45% increase of people visiting A&E due to dental problems. That's costing a taxpayer over £18 million at a time where NHS services are already stretched. And like you said, we're seeing even people that have free NHS care, those that are pregnant, those on low income. still cannot access a dentist. So those are being really marginalized. And that's the situation we're really seeing. Dentists are really asking the government to look at that model. The NHS model is just not workable. And like we said, that's why there's a mass exodus. That's why people are really leaving the system to try and offer the patients a better alternative. But there is a financial constraint for many patients already.
I mean, private dentistry as well, in the last couple of years, just seems to have gone through the roof. And when I say private dentistry, I'm not talking about the posh dentists. I'm talking about, you know, my local dentist is who I have to go privately to because I haven't got an NHS dentist around me. It is extraordinarily expensive. It is absolutely breathtaking how much you're out there. You're just giving them £1,000 for a basic, you know, filling and a, you know, whatever it is you're having done.
You know, you're seeing those in certain areas. And look, if you look at the World Health Organization, they're saying pretty much all, if not many, dental diseases are preventable. But this system just doesn't allow people to get in earlier. You know, every root canal, every crown at one point was preventable. And as dentists, we're encouraging people to say, look, come in and see us earlier. But obviously there's these big barriers preventing them. Private dentistry is trying to fix that, you know, lower examination costs, doing kind of payment plans so people can do, you know, monthly plans to see that 2 or 3 checkups a year. It is really difficult. And it seems the NHS is moving now more towards an emergency service. You know, the current plans today are keeping dentists into firefighters, you know, urgent care firefighters rather than important members of the community. You know, 8% of all undiagnosed diabetes are detected by dentists. It's moving us away from that important job and more into getting people out of pain when really we want to avoid that early on.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was saying earlier that, you know, you might chip a tooth, right, for example, and you think, no, I can't afford, it's something you can put off, right? People always think, oh, I'll just put that off. As I was also saying, dental pain never gets better, right? It's not one of those things you can go, ouch, that'll be all right, it'll fix itself. It never does. It always goes on to get worse. But a lot of people don't, it's something they put off, it's something they can't afford. Maybe they've got to travel vast distances to go towards. So as you're saying, the NHS dentistry then does become that emergency when you're in agony and you can't go anywhere else and you phone 111.
Exactly. So we're seeing trends in more people calling 111, more people going to a GP, more people going to A&E. But the problem is the system is not organized to deliver such good care. And dentists, if you compare us to Italy, you know, Germany, even France, we've got less dentists per 10,000 capita compared to all those countries, which is really, really scary. I mean, we're seeing people now go back to the 90s. The dental state is matching, what was it, 1998, 1999. Wow. Those were the last time we saw 4 in 10 adults have dental decay. So the government really needs to look at the way that the British Dental Association, the dentists, are really trying to ask the government to say, look, that model that was built in the 2000s just doesn't work for this current population. Let's get people earlier into a dentist. Let's prevent dental issues. Let's not wait for that root canal or that crown. And that's what it seems to be, more about urgent care appointments and less about prevention, really. That seems to be taking a back seat.
Do you know why that pharmacists won't give antibiotics for dental pain?
Dentistry is in a really interesting place. Again, why there is some pressures on many dentists is that litigation against dentists is incredibly high. So unlike other areas of healthcare where if that healthcare practitioner gets in trouble, everybody bands together and tries to find a solution. Dentists are pretty much left on their own. So what you're now finding is a very litigious environment. People are unfortunately in a lot of pain, a lot of emotions going around. So pharmacists at some points just cannot seem to just prescribe antibiotics because that might not be the best solution. It sometimes needs a drill on a tooth. It sometimes needs more sort of better intervention. And if something goes wrong, those pharmacists are in quite a tricky position.
I just wish they would. It's always so handy. Dr. Deepak Orlak, thank you very much indeed. Remind me again about your app, Tooth Fairy.
Tooth Fairy app, yeah, you can find us online for any emergencies or any urgent assistance. Yeah, we're a dentist trained in the NHS looking to kind of relieve some of the pressures that it's experiencing.
So if you're having a dental emergency, you can go on to Tooth Fairy.
Exactly. So, and speak to a real dentist. We'll try and help you. And even if you've just got healthy teeth and you're looking to just smile better, this dentist is there to assist you.
Wow. I've got that written down. Thank you very much indeed for that. Dr. Deepak Orlak, dentist and co-founder of the app, Tooth Fairy. Stay where you are, because coming up at the top of the hour is going to be my big brother, Andrew Hosken, who's going to be here to go through the newspapers for you for tomorrow.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Petrie and this is Talk, and I'm with you now until 1 o'clock. And of course, coming up at midnight is your chance to talk back, and we are going to be talking about the impossibility, it seems, of getting a dentist, and not just any old dentist, to see somebody in an emergency. And in 2025, the state of your teeth says more about your class than your accent ever could. So in some cases people are using garden tools, ouch, to remove their own teeth. They're having to drive hundreds of miles to see an emergency dentist, and some of them are even going overseas because they can't get seen by a dentist here in this country that they can afford. So that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. So please do give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at national rate, but we do call you straight back. You can also message me, put the word talk and then your message to 87222. Right now, though, we're going to be going through the papers with my guest, who I've just met, called Andrew Hosken, or Andy. I've never called you Andy.
No, some people call me Andy. I answer to both. But Andrew, yes,
yeah,
Andrew's fine.
This is my big brother. Never called him Andy in my life, but a lot of people do.
My
call him.
stage name was Andrew when I was on the BBC. I was Andrew Hosken, but mates call me Andy.
Okay.
So
I don't know whether
you've always called me Andrew, so
I've always called you Andrew, so I'll stick with that.
Yes.
Or brother. Right. He's broadcaster and author, by the way, which is why I wanted to talk to you about this BBC story, because interestingly, it's not actually features a lot on the front pages, if at all, this lawsuit from Donald Trump, which I find fascinating, because I know you agree with me that what Panorama did was absolutely disgusting. It was disgraceful.
Disgusting is a bit strong.
I think it was pretty poor journalism.
I think it was ill-advised and unnecessary, and
it was unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, I could see how it happened, and of course, it wasn't picked up at the time. I mean, we're talking about a Panorama programme that was broadcast in October 2024, and of course, then it became a part of the big rumpus that led to Tim Davie, the Director General, resigning a month or so ago. Yeah, but it was a daft piece of journalism. So I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that, whether it's worth the kind of this sort of Dr. Evil figure that, that the 100 billion or whatever it is that Donald Trump is claiming for it is another thing altogether.
But it's an interesting case, because Donald Trump does take things personally. We know that. It's not the first media organisation that he has sued either. No. And other... I mean, the CBS one, where they edited out some of ramblings by Kamala Harris, that's quite a common thing to do, right? I mean, I can't cut your ramblings out because it's live. But you've been a journalist for longer than I have, so it is a case where if you're doing an interview with somebody, you will edit stuff out, you will edit stuff around. You don't change the body of the meaning of it, but you do edit it, and that's what CBS did with the Kamala Harris interview. He still successfully sued and got $16 million in a case that he could not have won.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's not only, it's also ABC paid him £15 million pounds. And I think at the heart of both of these payouts, these shakedowns, one for $16 million, one for $50 million, was sort of corporate manoeuvrings. These companies were involved in deals, big corporate deals
that needed his sign-off,
that would have required possibly potentially the influence the President of the United States to become involved in. So, I mean, people have to realise how unprecedented it is for the President of the United States basically to go around suing media companies and newspapers
personally
and bullying them. Essentially, it's a strategy of bullying and intimidating the media. And unlike in this country, I mean, the United States Constitution was amended. The First Amendment was guaranteeing people freedom of speech, freedom of expression, religious expression, political expression, and so on. So that goes against, what the founding fathers felt, although it was amended later, wanted in terms of what America should be about. This should be about freedom of speech. And of course, the other issue is with public figures. Public figures expect a certain degree of criticism that other people may not. And of course, they're often in a better situation financially to be able to sue people. But it sort of smacks of the sort of thing we've seen in the United Kingdom, of what are lawsuits called SLAPs, which stands for Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation, where the intention of the litigation is to basically bully people into silence, to get them behaving in a particular way, to punish them for daring to criticise them. And I think all of this, to me, watching how Donald Trump has behaved towards the media and others, smacks to me as if this is, a big slap strategy. And it's to bully the media into saying nice things about him or shutting up shop altogether. I mean, you also see, for example, the way he's cut out the Press Association, the way he's cut funding for PBS and Free Europe and all these other very, very important organisations. And now he's going after probably the biggest, publicly funded broadcasting institution of all in the whole world, which is, of course, the BBC.
The settlements that he's got in the past, as you said, there are many reasons why those settlements were made, right? The CBS and ABC. Wall Street Journal is now in the frame for 100 billion. I can't remember how much.
10 billion.
10 billion, yes. Right? And they're not backing down because they're saying what they printed was true. This is about the Jeffrey Epstein birthday card.
The signature, which was then later released, of course, by the Epstein estate.
Yes, exactly. So they're saying it's true. But whenever somebody settles, he sees that as a victory and he portrays it as a victory. So you've got a situation with the BBC now that if they fight this in the courts, it would cost between 30 to 75 million pounds of licence fee money, of BBC money. If they settle, it will probably only cost 10 million. But at what cost do they settle? It's either a financial loss or it's a reputational damage in perpetuity, because Trump would just go, well, I've beaten the BBC, they're a corrupt organisation, they're liars, they're this, they're that.
Well, I think the simple answer, I think what the BBC has apologised to Donald Trump for this stupid decision to splice together these two bits of tape. And the BBC has a very simple decision. It's basically not to settle at all. And insofar as it needs to defend itself in a foreign court, well then by all means defend yourself, but they shouldn't settle and pay the guy a dime. I mean that's obvious, because it would be ridiculous for them to do so. I mean, for example, if the case was brought in the United Kingdom, it would have been time expired, because you have to initiate libel proceedings within 12 months of the alleged. Yeah. Also, you have to prove that it's caused you serious damage to reputation, which he can't prove either. So he's now suing the BBC in a foreign court in Florida. Well, how are they to, whatever they rule? I mean, how is that binding on the BBC in the United Kingdom? I mean, also there he has to prove the BBC acted with malice. Well, it obviously wasn't malicious. It was just stupid and incompetent.
Yes, but you're either with him or you're against him.
Yeah,
I mean, what he said about that film director, who was murdered in the most brutal way, and he said, well, pretty much it's his own fault because he hated me.
It was appalling, yeah. I mean,
disgusting.
What can you do? So the BBC can't. I mean, there are some people you just can't settle with, and it would be mad for the BBC to settle or to pay him any money. They should just say, we're not going to pay you any money. Sort of basically go and get stuffed.
But I mean, what can you do about it?
Not very much. I mean, I suppose he could throw out all the BBC reporters who are in Washington. Okay.
Well,
Well, I mean, the South African apartheid regime did that to Michael Buck, and it was a making of the man. No, I mean, he also did some fantastic journalism. But no, I mean, the BBC doesn't. I mean, the BBC. He can't prove malice, he can't prove serious harm. I mean, maybe I'm being naive, but having been involved in defamation cases myself and all the rest of it, I sort of know the score, having spent hours and hours with defamation lawyers and all the rest of it. And we know what this is. It's a bit of lawfare. Yeah. It's a piece of strategic litigation to bully the BBC. And maybe to shake them down for some money, which is what the man is going around the world doing anyway. Whether you're a, Qatari sheikh or you want to be let out of jail and you want to buy some crypto or whatever it is. I'm afraid that it seems to be a pattern of
6,000 pardons. It's over 6,000 pardons he's done in the last 10 months.
Yeah,
and I think the last 4 presidents did about 400 or something.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
6,000 pardons.
It's a lot of pardons.
Yeah.
I mean, and also there are so many. The other painful thing about libel litigation for anyone who's been involved in it is, of course, discovery. And what happens in discovery is you basically have to spill your guts. You basically have to give them all the documents that to relate to text messages, WhatsApps, all the rest of it. Now, do you really want to have all that coming out? I mean, does he
Trump,
really want to?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, that he will, to the great delight of those people who wanted to, before he became president, to sue him for insurrection or to put him in court for it, they will be thrilled to see the evidence that he would have to produce to prove that. I mean, look, there's no doubt that the BBC did what they did, right?
Yes.
Nobody has to prove or disprove that. No. What has to be proved is if it's done any material damage to him, and if it was done with malice, or basically if it was untrue. Also, that would be the third leg to that.
Well, I mean, you can actually put out untrue things and not to be defamatory. I mean, this is a myth that you can say something untrue about somebody and they can sue you for defamation. They can't. They still have to prove that it was malicious in the case of America.
Yeah, I had that thing with Anjem Chowdhury, who called me a prostitute and a paedophile.
Right. I mean,
on air.
Some allegations have become so absurd and outrageous and ridiculous that no one can take them seriously. So therefore, they can't cause you serious harm to your reputation. Also, the other problem Donald Trump has, of course, in Florida, he's got to try and prove that people in Florida saw the panorama virtually around about the same time. And that's going to be very difficult to prove. I mean, how's he going to prove that?
It wasn't broadcast.
The more you sort of look at the case and his claim, the more it's sort of stretching incredulity to sort of get it to a position where the BBC has to pay money.
But he's used to winning, isn't he? And I mean, there's a quote here. One of the special legal experts in the US said Mr. Trump is more likely to win $10 billion with a lottery ticket than his legal action against the BBC.
The BBC, I mean, 10 billion. I'm sure. I mean, as I say, I was joking about the Dr. Evil figure. You know, anyone who's seen the Austin Power movies, he always comes up with these absurd figures, and it reminds me a bit of that. You know, I demand 100 billion. You know, and whatever the figure is. So the figure seems to be plucked arbitrarily out of the air. It's roughly twice the annual income of the BBC. So it's just not. It's just not going to happen. And the BBC, from my experience of being at the BBC, you know, we had wonderful lawyers who could have earned a lot more money in Civvy Street. In fact, some of them, when they do leave the BBC, do precisely that, and they deserve to do so. And they're brilliant lawyers, and they get the best legal minds and the best counsel to advise them. So they're pretty well. You know, and they're used to dealing with being sued for I mean, I know one case where there could be a libel trial next year, which the costs have been estimated at £15 million, and that's a domestic libel trial, which the BBC is defending, and rightly so. So the BBC is very well tooled up when it comes to these sort of litigation, and politically and legally, you know, it is one they're going to have to deal with astutely, with good legal advice and with very good managers taking the right calls and making the right decisions. And I'm sure, you know, in the end, without sounding complacent, I think they'll be okay in the end.
Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump's former lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, told Times Radio earlier on today that Trump's action against the BBC is about power, influence and deterrence, as you were saying. Yeah. I mean, that's his own lawyer. His own former lawyer.
It's
and if he can get a couple of squids in the meantime, he'll pocket that.
Absolutely. I mean, he got 30 million quid from other newspapers, which frankly shouldn't have settled.
No.
But thought, we could be losing out on a deal that's worth hundreds of billions. So, bunging the guy, $15 million seems like a good bargain. But of course, it sends out the wrong message, and it's terrible for the rest of the media because it sets a very bad example, and it's just not the right thing to do. So the Wall Street Journal are defending themselves and are saying basically get lost, and the BBC hopefully should do the same. Yeah, well, again, the discovery with the Wall Street Journal will be absolutely fascinating. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Right, let's take a quick break, but Andrew and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And with me in the studio is Andrew Hosken, who is a journalist and author, and my brother. Just being honest with you, because I don't like, we might as well be honest. Let's have a look at the papers, Andrew. The Sun Mum of 15, blimey.
She's been busy.
Oh yeah, television doesn't work in that house. Mum of 15 goes from 60 grand handouts to business empire. Happy ever grafter. Mum of 15, once dubbed Britain's benefits queen, is now a top businesswoman. Good for her. Cheryl Ann Prudham, who previously got up to 60 grand a year from taxpayers, runs a beauty empire and owns a 10-bedroom house. She's blasted Labour for axing the 2-child cap and urged mums to pay their way.
Yes.
What do we think of that?
Well, brilliant for her to, to despite her amazing brood, to build an empire.
How do you do that?
An empire.
How do you find the time?
What's an empire? Sort of three shops.
I don't know what constitutes an empire.
No, but she sort of set up these stores, removing tattoos and doing all that sort of thing. Great, and all credit to her. I mean, I was interesting to see once dubbed Britain's benefits queen. By whom, I wonder?
Yes,
the tabloids, perhaps.
Perhaps by the Sun newspaper, perhaps.
And others. They're not the only ones.
And others. But interesting though, I often find this with a lot of topics is people pulling the ladder up after they've used it. It reminds me of Tony Blair opening the door to paying for university degrees. We got all free degrees, but we're going to pull that ladder up. Mm-hmm. And her attitude saying, oh, they shouldn't they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It seems a bit, well, I had it good. I had 60 grand a year.
Yeah, there's something about the story that doesn't add up.
No.
Somebody who's dubbed Britain's benefits queen, getting up to £60,000 a year from taxpayers in benefits, saying the Labour was wrong to
give benefits.
To remove the 2-child benefit cap. But I mean, the Sun is having a go at the Labour government, and that's part of what it does, and therefore, that's fine. I mean, it's leaving that aside. It's a heartwarming story.
It is.
She's got 15 kids. They all look great. She's working. She's managing a family and a successful business empire. So good luck to her.
15.
15.
Yeah.
I just don't.
50.
I mean, it just boggles the imagination.
My technical guy, Sam, in there, he's got 2 little boys. He's going,
50, only 15.
No,
I mean,
15 of them. We're 2 of 5. There were 5 of us.
Yeah, and that was a lot.
That was enough.
Yeah, absolutely. But 15 is just amazing, and they all look great and happy and smiling.
Yeah, they do, and good on her. I mean, how she found the time.
I just don't. Some people must have they must be allocated 30-hour days, and the rest of us just get 24-hour days. So I'm not entirely sure how she does that.
Not only
good luck
the time it takes to make the babies and then give birth to them as well.
No, mine could not be more boggled.
I know, but good on her starting her own business. Let's have a look at the Times newspapers. Return of UK student exchange with Europe. Britain to rejoin the Erasmus scheme from 2027. Many people are really angry about this because they see this as a return to being part of the EU.
Well, it's not really. When Brexit happened, the Erasmus scheme was gone, and I think it was a great loss. Because it's not only, our kids get a chance. I mean, my son studies in Germany, in German, in a subject that's so complicated I can't even begin to understand it. And his town is on the Dutch-Belgian border, and they just, they have Dutch friends and Belgian friends and people, and it's just brilliant. And they get to learn to speak different languages, get to understand other people's cultures, and also, it's an amazing piece of soft power. European kids come over to our universities, and they get to see the way we live and all this. So it's a power of good. And when it was gotten rid of, Boris Johnson got rid of it and replaced it with something called the Turing scheme, which was frankly far inferior and seemed really to be afforded only by people with rich parents or well-off parents. It didn't seem to be nearly as broad or as accommodating as the Erasmus scheme. There was an argument that more I think one of the main complaints about Erasmus, it was costing the Brits more money than it was costing other European countries, simply because we're very popular. We've got great universities, and so more.
And English is more spoken across Europe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely right. We tend to be much more,
lazy
in terms of languages. Yeah, unfortunately, whereas even Germans, Scandinavians, Belgians all speak very good.
All speak English.
But not all of them, but it depends where in Germany you are. In the east of Germany, they tend not to. West Germany, they more often than not they do. But nevertheless, there was an imbalance, and there still will be an imbalance. I think in the last year of the Erasmus scheme, 18,000, so 2018, 2019, around 18,000 UK students were in Europe, whereas 30,000 were in 30,000 European students were in the UK studying here, and of course that would cost us more money. And I think one of the disagreements between one of the nubs of discussion between the EU and the UK recently has been, the Britain's been asking for a discount of around 50%. Cut in the amount of money that we'll be paying the European Union. I think it's down to 30% for the first year. So there are.
So we are getting money back.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This.
It will still cost us money, but I mean, for what we get out of it, which is kids who can go to Europe will come back with languages and experiences that they could never have. And it's also not just university kids; it's also from school, and people on vocational courses can also go through Erasmus.
And just young people wanting to experience Britain and working in pubs and restaurants.
I mean, some things cost money. I'm afraid they do. But some things are worth spending money on. I think that's what you have to say. And I think the Erasmus scheme is definitely it. And I think it is just much better than what replaced it.
Yeah.
And a part of it seemed sort of an iconoclastic sort of, let's just get rid of everything to do with Europe mood that was prevailing in the.
And we did throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, there was lots of things that we lost that were actually pretty brilliant.
Well, I mean, even sensible things like being parts of common, security agreements with police forces around. So we would know if immigrants came to this country whether they had criminal records or not. And now we don't know because we walked out of these programs and schemes that we used to share with people like Interpol and Europol and organisations like that. So there are things, and I think it's a part of a general entrenchment with getting closer towards Europe. I think ministers over the last few months have been emphasising the economic damage which they say has been done to the UK economy as a result of leaving the European Union. I mean, there's been studies by experts in the United States who have said it's been a much bigger impact than I think was forecast by the Office of Business Responsibility, the OBR, and the Bank of England initially. So there is, and also people voted in the Labour government. We can argue about the electoral system and how reflective it is of public opinion as a whole, but nevertheless, Labour government came in. I think people expected them to go towards Europe and mend the fences, mend the European fences.
If at this point we can cherry pick some of the things that we like, the Erasmus and joining up again with the police and the organisations that can provide us with security information, then maybe I think that's what we should be doing if they'll let us do that.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, the main Brexiteers at the time of referendum saying, we'll never leave the single market. I mean, no one perished the thought that we'd ever leave the customs union. And of course we did. It was leaving those particular parts of the European Union. I mean, Norway is a part of the single market. Turkey's in the customs union, neither of which are members of the European Union. Yeah. So if you look at the map of various organisations of the European, there's the Schengen countries, there's the countries that have the euro, and then there's countries that are in the European Union which don't have either, and then outside you have the EEA countries, and then out in the middle of nowhere is the United Kingdom, which is a member of anything. I mean, even Turkey is part of there somewhere with a customs union agreement with the European Union. So I think it'd be more reflective also of public opinion, which seems to be thinking that if you believe the opinion polls, and I don't know, I'm just saying there are opinion polls which say that public opinion has swung against Brexit, that more people think that it was a mistake in retrospect.
Well, they were lied to as well. I mean, that's been proven. That was proven in a court. Let's have a look at another story. This is an interesting one. that's been chosen by the Times. A spot for swifts to nest in every new home. Every new home in England will be fitted with swift boxes for nesting under government rules to protect the endangered birds. Do you remember when we were kids, where we grew up, that we used to see those huge clouds of swifts that would move in this sort of a miraculous way? We were brought up in the sort of Oxfordshire countryside, and there'd be massive amounts of swifts in the air. You'd see them move in this most dramatic way. You don't see that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yes, goodness me, I mean, bugs and birds have really taken a clobbering in the last few decades due to climate change and all the rest of it, and the swift is in danger, as you say. I mean, you know, when we were growing up, you remember the swifts and the swallows, particularly in the summer, beautiful birds.
Extraordinary. And when they were getting to migrate, just the huge clouds of them that moved, it was stunning.
Yeah, you don't see them so much, and you say actually a lot of birds are migrating later than they used to because the weather's knocked their sort of migration systems out of kilter. But yeah, no, it's great, and we should be accommodating the natural world much more than we do. I mean, we sort of build houses over their natural habitat and all the rest of it. So it's great that new houses are being required to. I've got swifts in my house.
Have you?
I think, yeah, I didn't invite them, and I'm thinking about charging them rent, but we'll see how that goes on. But a lot of these new houses don't have the kind of rafters or the accommodation that swifts use. So it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Because they used to build those mud nest type things that on the outside. They build with mud, don't they? And get into the rafters. But if you've got a box there, presumably they would just use that.
Yes. Yeah.
So they wouldn't be causing any damage to the property. It's. I mean, I'd love to see those clouds of birds back again, because that was magical. When we were kids, that was really magical.
I forget the term for it.
I can't remember either.
It's a beautiful word. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning, and a lot of our listeners would also remember exactly what we're talking about in those huge. I just call them clouds because that's what they look like, but there is a special word for it. Let's take a break. Andrew and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and with me in the studio is Andrew Hosken, who is a broadcaster and author. And my brother. I keep having to say that because you're going to go, but the Daily Mail, let's have a look at this. What was the name of the word we were talking about?
Murmuration.
Murmuration.
Yeah.
There's a murmuration of starlings or swifts.
Well, it's all birds, yeah.
When they fly in unison and they do those dramatic... They all turn at the same time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Magical. Absolutely brilliant. Murmuration.
How they don't hit knock into each other.
It's just incredible. Right, the Daily Mail. for Wednesday. Free BBC if you live on Benefit Street. Now, middle-class families, it says, face paying more to watch the BBC to help fund free licences for benefit claimants if plans in plans that were unveiled yesterday. Now, this is all pie in the sky. This has not been something that has been gifted by the government. This is not something that is added to, our benefits bill, but those are proposals for future funding of the BBC. So I presume that would be people on pensions as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember the big row about the over 75s having free licence fees and that being changed and all the rest of it, and that caused a huge fuss. The newspapers, I think, including the Daily Mail, were very, very angry about it. I think again, it's this sort of tarnishing of people on benefits, which we saw with the lady on the front page of the Sun. It's not entirely clear what the proposals are from reading this, in particular. I mean, it's not entirely clear, and of course it's being juxtaposed by the Daily Mail with, it'll be you paying for their benefits, which, well, is true of all benefits, isn't it? I mean, it's not, all benefits are paid for by taxpayers eventually, and there are people in work benefits as well, so it's a very, obviously the benefits bill, I mean, it's hundreds of billions of pounds, so that's £350 billion a year. It's a lot. It's a big ticket item. I mean, if you look at the pie chart of UK government spending, the National Health Service, which is which is over 140 billion pounds a year, and then you've got benefits. So it is a big. So this is a tiny slither of the cake, if you like to say. But of course,
it'll enrage people that already think that why are they getting free television? But this is a tranche. This is to do with a whole range of changes without a BBC licence, basically. So they're not even saying that they'll get a free licence. My understanding is this is to do with having a paywall. And having to pay to see certain things like Call of Duty, if you like that sort of thing, or EastEnders, if you like that. Some things will be free, some things won't be free. But they've got to find a different way of funding the BBC, I think, because the licence fee is, people are not paying it anymore. So they've got to find a different route.
I mean, it's the age-old problem of how do you fund the BBC if you believe that there should be a BBC, which I frankly do. And it's just that the licence fee is getting quite antiquated now. It was based on ownership of televisions and the other thing about the benefits thing, I think one of the most unattractive disturbing elements of the licence fee are people breaking into people's homes and and bailiffs and taking stuff away, and I think the BBC's found that very upsetting in a way, because it doesn't want to be seen as somebody as an organisation that does that to people who can't afford it.
Well, people are in prison not for not paying their licence fee, but for not paying the fine. For not paying their licence fee. I know it's a nuance, but that is the company that works for the BBC that fines them, and if that fine isn't paid, then they end up going to jail.
I mean, for some families, fining £174.50 a year,
it's a lot.
It is, of course, it is. It's a lot of money. So, if people are struggling to pay, I mean, this is partly what benefits are for. So, I think if it's done in a particular way where, if people can afford to pay something, that they won't have to, not all of it will be paid for through the benefit system. It is a very difficult thing, because you want people to be able to participate in public life, of which the BBC is an important part. And if they genuinely can't afford to pay, then as part of the benefit system.
But people can't be going to prison for it anymore.
No, I think
that's just bonkers.
It just seems morally,
or being threatened and all that nastiness that you get.
I agree.
It's really, they're like thugs.
I agree, and there are certain parts of there are certain things that people would be prepared to pay for. People pay. I mean, for example, on podcasts, people have. Certain podcasts, certain very popular podcasts, people can either listen to them free as they come, or they pay extra and they can get to see stuff as a box set, or they get to hear them when they want.
Yeah.
And so there are imaginative ways in which people can pay for.
Well, for example, some podcasts will have adverts in them, and that's how you get them for free. And that the BBC should be looking at some mixture of all the good things that are around.
Exactly, as long as they don't make life too complicated for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, for example,
if they had a system where they said, right, you can watch this BBC channel for free. But there will be adverts and there will be stuff in that. Yeah. Or you pay a couple of quid and you can watch it without adverts.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
It's not, I mean, you already do that on Netflix or
YouTube as well. YouTube. You just you can get premium and you don't have to put up with people trying to flog you Tai Chi lessons every 3 minutes.
What is your algorithm? Tai Chi?
I don't know. People are trying to get me to, because of my age, I guess, and sort of because I'm watching Test cricket on and stuff. He must be some older bloke,
some old geezer.
So it's amazing. They all look incredibly muscle bound after just a few weeks. So I ought to try it.
Definitely. Let's have a look at the Telegraph now, and the story. They've got free TV licences there. All new homes must be built with special bird bricks, which we appreciate. And then this story, which is also on the Times, caesarean sections have become the most common form of birth in England, overtaking natural birth for the first time.
I find this just an extraordinary story. It really is extraordinary, and it deserves to be on the front page. According to figures published recently, yesterday, more than 45% of women who gave birth in 2024-2025 delivered their baby via caesarean. Wow. That's incredible.
That is high.
And the other extraordinary part of that figure is that, say, 4% elective is when you decide I want a caesarean, rather than have the doctor making the decision for you. That figure has hugely increased. So, back in the 1980, I think, according to the version of the same story in the Times, it was 4% were electing to have caesarean. Now the figure's up to 20% deciding to have a caesarean section. And what they're saying, and also there are sort of interesting figures within that. So, for example, the figures vary across the country, as indeed does the National Health Service. So people talk about the National Health Service. It's incredible the disparity that there are in the National Health Service. There is in the National Health Service across the country. You don't realise, being in London, you have all the teaching hospitals, you have the dentists, all the rest of it. Further out in England, and on the coastal cities and towns, is a much different story, much more different story. So I've always found that very interesting, and it's not something that's been very widely reported. But if you look at the figures varying across the country, with almost 4 in 5 babies being born in Chelsea and Westminster being delivered by caesarean, 80%.
Too posh to push.
Well, I don't. You may say that. I couldn't possibly comment.
I had a caesarean, by the way. It was an emergency. But.
That compares to 1 in 3 in South Tyneside and Sunderland in the northeast. So that's an extraordinary story.
That is a big difference. It is, isn't it? But I think it's also, if you're a woman and pregnant, and birth is terrifying.
I know. I've been present when it's been.
I know. But you weren't actually doing the job.
No, but I empathised.
You empathised in that blokey kind of way, yeah. But and I think there's a lot of fear around giving birth. And there is prenatal depression that has been recognised, and a lot of that is to do with there's a lot of stress and a lot of fear, and so women are electing for caesarean because it's a terrifying process to go through.
Oh no, absolutely. And the other important thing is, and again this is highlighted in this fascinating report on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, is that one of the 2 main reasons for this is obesity. So women who, they're saying that there is more obesity, more male obesity, more female obesity.
So the babies are bigger, or
it's just it just compromises the vaginal birth, the natural birth.
Yeah.
And therefore that's one of the reasons, which is a very interesting statistic. The other thing is that people women are having babies later in life, and this is another reason for caesarean. So these 2 phenomena, obesity and caesarean, are both playing into, and it may be that sort of posh areas in Chelsea and Westminster I'm talking as a complete ignoramus here, but just surmising that women having babies older at a later stage may be the reason why.
That they're electing.
Whereas in Tyneside, maybe women are having babies younger, and that's why only 1 in 3 compared to 4 out of 5.
That is amazing statistic.
It's an incredible story. I mean, it's mind-blowing.
And of course, cesareans are more expensive. Their recovery time is way longer, and it's incredibly painful. But they cost £4,000. A cesarean compared to £3,200 apparently. Oh, it's not that much of a difference.
800 quid.
800 quid to have an epidural and a bit of a sleep.
Well, it's all free. It's on the health service.
Yeah, exactly. No, as you know, my son was born by emergency cesarean in Germany. So so that's another story for another day.
But it's a story of our times, and I think it's fascinating.
It is, and I do think there's a lot of people are not prepared to go through that level of discomfort and pain and things like that. So there is a sense as well that, well, if it's there, I might as well use it, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't blame any woman for making that decision.
No, I certainly
at all.
don't. No.
And no man can.
No.
So if you tried to, I would have jumped all over you. Just very quickly before we go to the break, the Mirror, it came in late, but it does cover that Trump story.
Yes.
BBC comes out fighting.
Yeah.
Lawyers planning to grill the president over his role in the riots. He's
there we
really
are.
Happy
Disclosure.
With that.
It's liable actions are very, very dangerous for the claimants as well if they've got stuff to hide and they don't want it to come out. Very dangerous, and history is full of examples from Oscar Wilde onwards, and people who have taken out liable actions only for it to backfire quite dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and disclosure is the big problem, and things coming out of the woodwork.
So we could see him claiming that Keir Starmer's begged him to drop the case, even if Keir Starmer doesn't.
The other thing about Donald Trump is he's not as successful in libel claims and legal claims as you think. I mean, he sued various people. He sued Hillary Clinton.
Oh, he's suing loads of people. They're not working.
They've all collapsed. Sonny's become president. It's a big lever to settle cases. Yeah. But still, against the BBC and the Wall Street Journal, other people, I don't think he's going to have much luck. I really genuinely don't. I may be proved wrong, but I think this sort of establishes what I think the BBC's strategy will be. It should come out fight, and that's what you should do with bullies. Yeah. And not doing that with bullies was always much more dangerous.
Much.
So the BBC really doesn't have much of an option, and I don't think it's much of a risk, to be honest.
Well, a lot of lawyers would agree with you, although one of the papers was saying that he will triumph. That's the Telegraph. Right, quick break, and Andrew and I'll be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie with you, and with me, Andrew Hosken, broadcaster and author. Tell me about your books that you've written.
Oh, really?
I've forgotten. Yeah, you might as well.
Well, I wrote one on. I wrote a biography of Shirley Porter, who was the leader of Westminster Council, who was involved in one of the biggest corruption scandals, local government corruption scandals.
Book. Nothing Like a Dame, it's called.
Nothing Like a Dame, yeah. Which was fun to do because I had a role in sort of finding her hidden money. So she owed the authorities some £50 million.
And they said they couldn't find it, and you found it.
Yes. I mean, I won't bore.
They said they couldn't find it.
It was all offshore, but it won't bore people with the exactly. It was a bit of a. I tell the story in the book about how it happened, but it was a sort of bit of a comedy of errors. But yeah, it did lead to her hidden wealth. So she was forced in the end to pay around £12.5 million, I think, because that was the money that they definitely knew was they could prove was hers, and the rest of it was sort of tangled up in other family members. And of course, it was a personal liability to her. But it was the end of a 5-year investigation, gone through all the courts, and people had sort of given up finding the money, and so. You
found it in a couple of days, didn't you?
Well, it
wasn't very long.
Well, no, it was. I had a couple of lucky breaks, and as I say, it was. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but on this occasion.
For you.
So anyway, but it was. So that was, and then I did a biography about Ken Livingstone. And then I did another cheerful book, which was a history of ISIS. The terror group. So they're all very cheerful reads.
Lovely, just snuggle down on a winter's
Christmas
evening.
read, with a glass of cherry brandy, and think, just
just learn about ISIS.
Lovely, yes. Yeah. It's honestly.
It's a very good book, the ISIS book.
Cheer you up no end.
Yes, I used to work with Ken Livingstone. He was like your brother, Andy. He always called you Andy. Actually, he was.
Yes, well, my claim to fame was I discovered that he had 3 more children than he had hitherto admitted to publicly. So
he wasn't very fond of you, I don't think.
No, we got on fine. No, he was fine about it. No, he just
discovered 3 kids.
I just said, well, if you're going to write a book about somebody, you should at least get the number of the children right. We don't want, So I think he wasn't. Maybe maths wasn't his strong subject. So anyway,
he lost count of his kids.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so let's have a look at the I paper, a silicosis scandal. Now, a lot of people may not have heard about this, but this is becoming a really big deal.
I think this is a classic sort of newspaper campaign, and it's a really good campaign. It's something I hadn't heard about, and I think the importance of newspaper campaigns, they can keep on banging on about stuff, and I think in our very sort of ADHD world and lots of things going on, I think it's important sometimes we take a story that's sort of not doing very well, or and hasn't been publicly made available to people, to actually to sort of force it onto the front page and the public attention despite whatever's happening. So I applaud the Eye for doing this. And it's basically, silicosis is something I didn't know. It's basically something that it's dust that comes off these sort of these silicone type kitchen tops that we all have on our homes now, and it's the act of sawing, cutting up these bits
and the dust
that cause this silica dust. And it's becoming a more and more of a major problem. I mean, it's not only people it's many young workers and masons who are exposed to silicosis.
The kitchen fitters and people.
Yeah. And it appears that in some cases, and it's very difficult to know how widespread it was, they didn't have the necessary PPE to protect them from their lungs. But it's a sort of incurable lung disease. That just gets worse and worse and worse, and it could be. I mean, they're talking about. I've seen figures of around 600,000 people being exposed to this throughout the country. Yeah, in some form or another. I mean, those are some of the figures. There's been 8 new cases in 2023 of silicosis, so it's becoming more and more. Sort of people becoming more and more aware, and it reminds me a bit about asbestos.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to think that asbestos was once considered to be safe.
Yeah.
And I think it was the Romans who initially realised that lots of their workers were getting sick in their asbestos mines, which probably weren't the sort of places you would want to go and work in, and probably lots of people there were having to work there against their will.
It dates back to the Romans.
Yeah, asbestos, because it was a good
insulator.
Well, it was something that it was mainly as a fire retardant. So you can't. It was particularly in high rises. Yeah. So yes, but obviously the Romans didn't use it, but they used it in lots of different ways. But we've used it the last 100, 200 years or so as fire retardants for tower blocks. So tower blocks catch on fire. There's less chances of fire spreading because of asbestos. And in fact, in some Hollywood movies they were using it as fake snow. So
Blimey.
So that is pretty scary stuff. So that was how ignorant people were of the risks. And of course then various diseases, lung cancer, mesothelioma, all these terrible diseases. I mean, I think Steve McQueen died of it. He was working as a shipyard.
Yeah, apparently they used the asbestos on the Wizard of Oz. Rumours are.
But yeah, wouldn't be surprised, because they thought it was safe. It was considered to be the sort of wonder material. And then, of course, when I was at the BBC, did stories about asbestosis, and people were still making claims for it, and mesothelioma, these terrible lung diseases that people got as a result. So I hope to goodness that this silicosis, it's described as a silicosis scandal by I, doesn't become anything near on that. I suspect not, but still, it must be very worrying for people who have been involved with this, with this industry.
Shocking. Yeah, I mean, awful for them, as and to know that is potentially what you've got to look.
Very worrying. So hopefully the Health and Safety Executive, other people, government will jump on this and make sure that people are wearing the right stuff, and that
young tradespeople coming through learning that this is dangerous. It's just knowing, isn't it?
Yeah, and this
information is key here.
And that's what's so important about these newspaper campaigns. It makes it aware, so people will be much more aware. Bosses will be aware.
You look what newspapers have been doing recently for prostate cancer, for example.
Yes.
All of that awareness, particularly in the absence of a full-on screening programme.
Yes.
You go and ask yourself to see your doctor, and it's just that advice.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. We're running against the clock, but let's have a look at The Guardian now. And this story, which I was saying yesterday, Andrew, that I just can't get my head around, is this Liverpool parade, the former Marine who was sentenced today. We know that he was sentenced today. Former Royal Marine is starting a 21-year jail term.
Yes.
And I'm going to break that down. It's 21 years and 6 months, 17 counts of attempting to cause grievous bodily harm with intent, 9 counts of causing grievous bodily harm with intent, 3 counts of wounding, and 1 each of dangerous driving and affray. So 31 counts in total, which added up to that 21 years. The judge was furious about this, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Judge, the Liverpool Recorder, I watched it on TV. It was great. I mean, all courts should be televised, in my view. And in this particular case, the sentencing was televised, and Judge Andrew Mearney, the judge, said he found it difficult to comprehend how anyone could do this. I mean, to put it into context, this happened on May the 26th. The people of Liverpool were celebrating the fact that Liverpool Football Club had won its 20th Premier League thing. It was
all jolly day, families.
People returning, all the rest of it. And then suddenly this maniac, for the want of a better word, with his big 2-ton SUV, starts mowing people down because he's in a hurry.
I cannot get my head around the fact that he lost his temper.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his history, he's obviously a very troubled man. I mean, he ripped off someone's ear in a pub brawl and got 12 months back in 1994, or when it was, reading up on him. But just seeing the coverage of this,
unbelievable.
This man driving through crowds, innocent people. I mean, there were prams being knocked over. 134 people were injured. It's a miracle.
He's lucky no one died.
Well, I think it's because there were so many people that he couldn't get enough speed up to kill. And of course, in the end, it was another ex-soldier who gets into as you were describing earlier, gets into the SUV and puts the car into neutral.
Yeah,
so
he noticed that it was an automatic, so he was able to put it into park or something.
Yeah, incredible
thinking.
Every time we had these these have-a-go heroes who just have the most extraordinary clarity of mind and act in ways that, you know, I think
you like to think you would.
Yes, exactly.
But you know, he was one that did, and he got in the car, and he said even as he put it into park, Doyle was still pressing the accelerator. And just to imagine that this is just. This is somebody losing their temper. This is road rage that caused this damage.
And of course, it's not on this scale, but of course, you do notice a lot more people being angry behind the wheel.
Totally.
And driving very badly. And the judge, you know, in his sentencing, referred to his terrible driving. Which he caught in earlier months.
Yeah, all that road rage and just people thinking they're way more important than anybody else. It really is quite sickening. Yeah. Andrew, thank you very much indeed. I really enjoyed that. That was good. Pleasure. Andrew Hosken there, who's just done the papers for you. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is Petrie here with you, and this is Talkback. This is your opportunity to do just that. And this whole hour is just dedicated to you and your voice and your stories, and there is nothing else. So if you don't phone me, it's going to be a bit dull. So do give me a call. What we're talking about this morning is the state of British dentists, because there's a big report has come out which is suggesting that the postcode lottery of care that exists around dentistry is now at breaking point. It is just absolutely ridiculous. There are deserts of care in dentistry, and it is appalling that people, when they have emergency dental care, right, you know that moment where you've left it too long and your face is out here, or you've got pain and you can't sleep and you can't get away from it. It's the worst pain ever, 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 ever. Trying to get an emergency appointment, and it's always at the weekend or late at night or early in the morning, that you get this pain, but you need to see an emergency dentist. Some people can't even get to see an emergency dentist. So when was the last time you tried to see an emergency dentist, or you had an emergency with dentistry? Because so many of us now cannot find an NHS dentist. And if you're paying, can't even afford an NHS dentist. So we put things off. We wait until it reaches the emergency stage. And by then, you've got to find an answer, and quickly. Was it 1 out of 3 paracetamol overdoses is due to tooth pain? And anybody who's had tooth pain will completely get that, because you don't care. At the point you're in that much pain, I have been there. I just don't care. I don't care. I'm taking these painkillers, although I will switch between Nurofen and paracetamol, which is a sensible thing to do. It is extraordinary, and so many people now are having to go to A&E, which costs about £18 million. That's just for tooth problems. So tell me when the last time it was that you needed an emergency dentist. What happened? Have you ever done any dentistry work on yourself? I mean, I asked that, but not because that's just flippant, but because so many people now are actually operating on themselves. And the dentist I spoke to earlier on in the programme said they're using garden tools to try and, it really hurts my teeth, to try and remove a tooth when they've got a problem. So the situation that we're in with dentistry is absolutely dire. London is not so bad, although I have to go to a private dentist, not because I'm, one of those rich people, but because actually trying to get an appointment at an NHS dentist. And NHS dentists, they're so limited in the work they can do now. So it's literally just, if you've got a problem, they'll say, well, we're going to take the tooth out. We're not going to bother crowning it. We're not going to bother doing anything. We're just going to take that tooth out. So a lot of people have got teeth missing because of the sort of poverty, if you like, of the poverty of NHS dental care. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. So please do give me a ring and let me know what it's been like for you, your family, your kids. I mean, kids I think go free, but even so, a lot of children don't even get to see a dentist because there isn't one in their area. So they don't get taken to the dentist, even though it would be free of charge if they were to be taken. So there is a real problem here. And the quote here says, in 2025, the state of your teeth says more about your class than your accent ever could. And I agree with that as well. I think that is true. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. And you can text, if you put the word talk and then your message, to 87222. Joe has called from Derbyshire. Good morning, Joe.
Hi, Petrie. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Oh, not so good at the moment.
Oh, no. What's happened?
Well, no, I'm still confined to bed. But the true difficulty I have is most of my problem of being bedbound was NHS negligence. And this negligence caused a huge immune flare-up, which caused arthritis and weirdly enough in my jaw joints.
Wow.
And I had to have jaw joints modelled from the USA to have them replaced.
I've never heard of that before. So literally that joint there. You can't see me, I'm pointing at my jaw.
It's called the temporomandibular joint. If you think someone's got a very square joint, it'll be the square bit on the end.
Right.
And there's only about a dozen done in the country a year, and you have to be very specialised to actually do it. Now, the problem being, my cartilage wore down, so I was chewing bone on bone.
Ouch.
And, yeah, and the operation to have it replaced was horrific. I had one done 1 year and then one done the next year. And because I had one done first of all, that put all my jaw out of alignment. So my teeth then went out of alignment. And then when I had the second one done, my teeth didn't line themselves back up. So my teeth are all out of alignment as well. And because I've got 2 plastic jaw joints, I've now only got jaw opening of 2 very small finger widths. So cleaning my back teeth is actually impossible. And so is going to a dentist, because they can't get back to my back teeth because I can't hold my jaw open for long enough. Now, if I don't know if you remember back when we were kids in the school dentist and things, they had a thing where they'd prop your mouth open to clean your teeth and stuff for the hygienist. And they'd also have sedatives on hand. Well, they don't do that anymore. You can only get a sedative if you go to a dental hospital.
Really?
Yeah. But I can't get a dentist to refer me to a dental hospital. So all my teeth are full of holes and I'm in agony. And I've got no answers.
Oh, sweetheart. That is shocking.
I mean, because of the opening of my mouth.
So you can't get into... Would they be able to get in?
Anything there to get them out myself.
And would you be tempted to remove them yourself?
I don't do anything.
I mean, that's the thing with dental pain, isn't it? You would do literally anything to make it stop.
I do anything because the morphine and everything I've been on, I was just... that morphine doesn't touch it.
And why won't they refer you to a dental hospital?
They won't tell me why. I don't know whether it comes out of their budget or something. I don't know. But I have got, because I haven't been able to get to my back teeth to clean them properly, and I've always been really good with my teeth and really good with seeing the dentist. I've now got 3 wisdom teeth that need removing that are just rotten, that I can't even reach. And I'm desperate, and I'm wondering, is there anyone out there who can find an answer for me?
Well, listen, do you, first of all, have you tried going to A&E?
I have. All they do is they'll give you some morphine or a codeine injection and
send you on your way. Yeah.
Send you to the local emergency dentist that they've got, but then they're not allowed to give you a sedative. So they say we can put it out without a sedative, or you can go home and suffer.
Oh, I just feel so... Are you technically reasonably okay? Have you got a phone, mobile phone and all of that?
Well, I've got a phone and that, but I've spoken to you before. I've got lots of health problems and I'm bedbound.
But do you have a smartphone?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was talking to that dentist earlier on, he's got an organisation called Tooth Fairy, and it's an app, and you can get to speak to dentists and to people on that app.
I can't get to a pen at the moment or anything.
It's just Tooth Fairy, one word. So if you go onto your app store, wherever you get your apps from, and put in Tooth Fairy, It sounded brilliant, actually. He was.
Oh, no, I'm so bloody angry because they can't treat me, and it was.
But he can. They, you know, he.
In the first place.
Yeah, but you will get to speak through this app. You do get to speak to, from what he was saying, you get to speak to a dentist who will advise you and probably know, you know, give you more than I can give you.
I've been like this for 4 years.
Oh, bless your heart.
I've been virtually, you know that oral gel stuff you can get for your tooth pain. It's like benzocaine. It kills the. It's like almost like a local anaesthetic. I've been more or less drinking this stuff, which I'm sure can't be good.
No, that's not going to do you any good. We've got to get it sorted out. We've got to get it sorted out, Joe. You can't. I mean, this is just torturous. I mean, it is such torture, tooth pain. If people haven't ever experienced it, they don't know what we're talking about.
I'm really concerned because my children haven't got any family, and having this much tooth decay can cause you heart problems and all sorts of things.
Yes, it can. Yeah, it really can. Well, look, have you been able to write Tooth Fairy down?
I have.
Right, so go to your app store, download Tooth Fairy, and see if that is helpful. And if it's not helpful, get back in touch. We'll see if there's anything else we can do. But from what he was saying, that sounds like a really good tool.
There's several Tooth Fairy ones, but I'll try all of them. But if you hear of anything, could you?
The dentist is Dr. Deepak Aulak, A-U-L-A-K, the dentist. So I don't know which Tooth Fairy it would be. That's a bit annoying. Is there several? I'll have a look. I'll have a look and see if I can figure it out for you. We think it's the first one on the list.
Okay.
Okay. So download that and give it a go, and see what happens. But my heart goes out to you, Joe, because that is hell. If you've got a situation like that, you take care of yourself, Joe. Let us know how it goes. It's the one with the picture of a tooth on it. So the other ones don't. Right. So the other ones have fairies. So it's the Tooth Fairy one with the tooth on it, Joe. So that'll be the one. Right. So it's so heartbreaking, isn't it? I mean, anybody who's had tooth pain knows that it is something you can't cope with. It is absolutely beyond coping with. So listen, give me a call. Tell me your story about when you tried to get emergency dental care. Did it work? Did you get anywhere? Was it helpful? You know, I've got loads of messages coming through, but I'd love it if you called 0344 499 1000. And if you do need to send a message, then you put the word talk and then your message to 87222. Quick break, back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you with Talk Back, and I want you to talk back at the moment because we all know that dentistry in this country is pretty disgraceful. It's not available, it's not affordable. It is just shocking actually when you consider that mouth and tooth health is as important as any other part of the NHS, and yet it is the Cinderella service, if you like. It is treated like it is nothing. And it is so important, as we could hear there from Joe. There's no way somebody should be suffering like that in this country, in this day and age. But the impossibility of getting a dentist has made teeth have become the biggest class divide. That your teeth say more about your class than your accent ever could, because it is so expensive. It is ridiculous. I've got to have there's a bridge I've had for about, I don't know, 30 years, right? So it's long overdue. But I'm being told that that's got to come off and an implant has got to go in. I've been quoted £6,000. £6,000 for a back tooth. £6,000. I mean, who can afford that? Literally, who can afford that? Ridiculous. So if you see me with a big gap in my mouth, you'll know what I opted for. £6,000. Not even making that up, not exaggerating. Ridiculous. So that's what we're looking at now in terms of dentistry. And there's no point saying, well, you go to the NHS, because first of all, you can't get an NHS dentist, and second of all, they don't do them. They would just remove the tooth. They would just remove the crown. And that'll be it, gone. And go, right, on your way then. So it's not possible. I mean, I can't even. £6,000, forget it. It's not going to happen. So anyway, that's what we're talking about. What was it like when you last tried to get an emergency dental appointment? Did you get one? Did you have to travel 100 miles to go and see somebody? Did you eventually end up going overseas? And you know, the temptation of having cheaper dental treatment overseas. What did you do? What are you doing about your teeth? They are important, after all, right? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Nice call came in here from Kaz for Joe. Needs to get to a maxillofacial clinic at the hospital. I feel really sorry for her. I had 5 teeth out due to an inflammatory condition and recurrent abscesses. The pain is unreal. I'd rather birth another child. And that's Kaz sending love to you, Joe. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. And Sam's saying this is a hugely ignored problem. If you're disabled and have days bedbound with no warning, dentists remove you from their books. Then if you can't travel, you will never see a dentist. I know I was kicked off the books with my dentist, and that's Samantha in Lancashire. Again, it's crazy. It's crazy. Jill is in Devon. Good morning, Jill.
Hi there. Hello, Petra. Hi.
Hi. What do you make of the state of dentistry in this country?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's pretty bad. I couldn't really go. I can't tell you all the details of what's happened to me because it would take too long in terms of. But I don't really trust dentists. But I'm avoiding it. I've actually got 2 missing front teeth, and I've got I've got a plate. You know, I had one of those plates that you put in for your teeth. Anyway, that was years ago, but it doesn't fit anymore. My mouth has obviously shrunk or whatever, so I couldn't get the plate in. So, for me to get another one would be over $2,000 or something. More than that, probably 3. And I was tempted actually in Morocco. I was in Morocco not long ago, and I was tempted to get treatment to get it done go to the dentist in Morocco, but I didn't in the end. But I know Turkey is the place to go, but I had heard that Morocco is sort of up and coming in dentistry, if you know what I mean, and it's cheap. But I didn't, but yeah, I know, like, and I've got to say, the last time I called the dentist on an emergency thing was during that COVID blooming lockdown.
Oh,
rubbish.
God.
And do you know what? I couldn't get to see anybody. I was in a lot of pain, and I just, so at the time, I just used what I normally do, actually, when I've got toothache, is clove bud oil, you know, because it's the old stuff, you know, and it does work, you know, in lots of cases. Clove bud is brilliant for toothache. If you put a clove bud oil, you know, on your tooth, proper, you know, organic clove bud oil, you know, from
tastes disgusting though.
Essential oil, you know, for toothache. It's one of the best things directly on your tooth, you know.
But it just burns, it numbs and burns the gum, doesn't it? Or it feels like it's burning.
Yeah, I mean, you can mix it with like olive oil or something, so you're not putting it definitely on, but it definitely is good to numb it temporarily while you're waiting. And sometimes it works like almost like an antibiotic, so sometimes it will just get rid of the whole problem. That time it got rid of the whole problem for me. I didn't buy, but I did find out from the dentist later, and that was during the COVID lockdown thing, because I saw that guy, and he told me that at that time I was under NHS, and not now, because there's no such thing as NHS dentistry now, but he told me that the reason he couldn't see people, he'd been told, after seeing NHS clients as opposed to private clients, with the NHS, he had to spend an hour between clients, cleaning everything, washing everything, like blah, 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 between appointments. But with the private clients, he didn't have to do that.
What?
So, exactly. So, I mean, that just tells you that...
Yeah.
That it had nothing to do with infection, everything to do with the NHS were actually making him do an hour, because that would mean that they had to see less people, if you know what I mean, and that would put off, you know, people would, and that's what, in the end, they just got rid of NHS patients altogether, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, so many of dentists now are only doing private work, and like I said, just to have a 30-year-old crown, you know, can't be replaced because it's loosened one of the teeth, right, in my mouth.
Yeah.
So it's got to be an implant, and they're quoting me £6,000. And if I want something in the gap so that it can't be seen in the interim, in between having it removed and an implant working, which might be a year, 800 quid. For just...
Would you consider going to Turkey to do it?
Well, do you know where? Do you know where I'd go, Jill? I wouldn't go to Turkey. I'd go to Poland. Apparently, the Polish dentists are brilliant.
Yeah.
I've got lots of Polish friends who they always, when they go back to Poland to visit their family or whatever, they always get their teeth done there.
Yeah, well, they are. I mean, most of the dentists over here are Eastern European anyway, or Polish, but. Yeah, they seem to be good dentists, don't they? Yeah, they really do. And I hear nothing but great stuff about Polish dentists. And I'd love to go to Poland now. Yeah, it might be worth doing that. I mean, I haven't actually thought about that, but I don't really want to go to Turkey at the moment, but to be honest with you, I'm avoiding dentists altogether. I mean, I've got my two front teeth have got, you know, the minute I've got that. And like you say... How do you manage without two front teeth if the plate doesn't fit anymore? Well, I say I've got a bit of one front tooth, and I've got a very big gap in the front of my mouth. All right. But people treat you differently, Petrie. They don't treat you. They look at you, they see you with missing teeth, and they treat you like a lowlife because you got missing teeth, right? So and you say the class thing. Actually, right, originally I'm from a middle class background, okay? My father was middle class, so my mother wasn't, but, you know, I was brought up like, so it's not, I mean, but it does, it does tell you how much money the person's got, but not necessarily, because it might not be about money, because a lot of people have a fear of dentists and won't go anywhere near them. I mean, that's also true, but I think it is something that people do judge as being a problem of poverty, or, you know, lack of care, or you know, this is what's being listed. Is a lot of people get really upset about because they're judged as being, oh, you didn't look after your teeth properly, or it's like people who are obese, right? And people judge them and go, oh, you're just fat and lazy, and it's kind of like, no,
That's not the reason. But people look at people with missing teeth and also have low opinions of that, which is grossly
unfair.
unfair.
You open your mouth, yeah. The minute you open your mouth, I know that I'm treated. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, I don't open my mouth. I know the minute that I smile or open my mouth, and obviously not everybody is like that. Some people are spiritually evolved enough to not treat people according to it. I mean, we all judge to a certain extent by appearances. We can't help it. But there are people who are evolved enough to treat you as a human being, regardless of what your face looks like. But
it must be. You must make you. Yeah. There are people like that. Thank goodness. But it would make me feel really insecure, actually, and probably a bit hermit-like.
It can make you. It can. I know. Sure, I don't let it stop me. I don't let it stop me now. I mean, I don't let it stop me, and I really should do so. I mean, I'm avoiding this whole thing as well as the money thing. I'm avoiding it. But anyway, I just I think that the people that count. I mean, strangers, there's nothing you can do about strangers,
no,
I'm afraid.
I agree. Yeah.
But the people that count, as in people that know you, to be honest with you, I think a lot of them don't even notice the people that know me because they know my character, do you know what I mean? And so, but it does occur with strangers. You know, you're going to get treated, they take, you know, there's that type of people, they treat you according to how exactly your class or money or whatever, and they make assumptions immediately. And actually, we all do assumptions on appearance. And I try and check myself when I know that I'm doing. If I think I've done it on appearance, I try and check myself and say, no, you don't know that person.
Yeah, I always think, you know, you don't know what that person's been through. And when something the other day we're talking about obesity being a big problem on the NHL. I can't remember what the story was. And I said, yeah, but you don't know why that person's obese. A lot of people have mental health issues. They were abused as children. You know, they've put on weight as a defence mechanism. You know, you don't know, so don't judge.
Or it can be maybe medication they've been on that's
exactly that.
Overweight.
Yeah, I was on a medication that made me some steroid stuff that made me pile on weight. And you just don't know, so don't judge. I can't. I don't think you should. I don't think anybody should. But of course they will.
And I think, you know, it's already really the most important thing for me as well, because none of us are perfect. So what I think is even it's like the whole thing as racism as well. It's like if you accept none of us are perfect, so you accept that there's always a part of you that even if you don't mean it, that unconsciously might have some racism, or you might be judging someone, and you might be judging someone by anything, their religion or something, or they're because they're fat. If you're aware that could always be a risk of yourself, then you can always check yourself. But it's the people who think they're perfect and think they would never judge anyone and think that they would never do this, actually really don't realise, you know, that they're doing it unconsciously. But once you're aware of it, it's like, you know, then you can sort of think, okay, well, I'm aware that I might judge that person, so then I can check myself, you know.
You're a woman after my own heart, Jill. You really are.
Yeah.
Because it sometimes does take effort just to go, hang on a minute, why did I have that thought process? Or, you know, should I not be thinking like that, or should I behave in a different way? But listen, with your teeth, I suppose $2,000 is going to be just out of reach, is it, to get that done?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, there are ways I could arrange this, okay, on my own, and there's a way I could do it with me at the moment. I have put it off, but I am now thinking, look, I really should do it. You know, I should go and get a new one. I should get this sorted. I've been avoiding the dentist because there's other treatment I should have had done that I didn't.
Yeah. We've all done that. Yeah, you know, I get nagged into going and have your teeth. When was the last? You know, last time I was in, he said, oh, you mustn't forget to go and have your teeth cleaned. It's like, yeah. But it's just like, put it. I hate that. But
filling, so I didn't go back to have that I should have had, and I know all that. But I mean, they can't make me do it anyway. And if I don't trust them on some things, if I just want one thing, I can say, at least when you're private, they can't tell you what to do.
No, exactly. Exactly. Aren't we? It's so interesting though that we all kowtow to this, and you know. But actually, you can just say, no, shut up. Just do what I've asked you to do.
I don't want your filling.
Yeah, I don't want your stupid filling. Just do my 2 front teeth, because that's all I want for Christmas. Is my 2 front teeth, and then shut up. Don't nag me. I think that's the right thing.
It needs to come back. I know.
Oh, well, listen, you go get that done, Jill. Don't mind them. They can't. What can they do? What can they do? Embarrass you? So what? We're bigger and older and uglier than that, Jill. We can cope with that. Yeah. Go and get your 2 front teeth sorted out. Jill, lovely to speak to you. Thank you. And that advice is the clove oil. Clove. Tastes disgusting. But anyway, if it works, eh? Right, I've got to take a break, but I will be back in just a moment to talk to Luke.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and it is Petrie, and it is Talk Back. It's your chance to do exactly that. And we're talking about the shocking state of British dentistry, actually, and how important it is, and how important it is just to your psychological well-being to have decent teeth. You know, we're talking to Jill there, who's got a tooth missing at the front, and you know, it's just awkward, right? And people judge you for that. And there are lots of reasons people don't go to the dentist, but potentially one of them is fear, and the other one is obviously money, and the other is availability. I mean, they're just not around. So what do you do if you can't afford to go to a private dentist? And they are unbelievably expensive now. They've gone up 30% in the last few years. I mean, ridiculous. Loads of messages here just before I go to Luke. I haven't seen a dentist since 2019. I've tried and just keep getting told there's a waiting list. I had to go to hospital for an emergency extraction. Following that, I had to go to private for a root canal and 3 fillings. It cost me £1,730. Ouch! I've paid my taxes all my life and I can't even see an NHS dentist. It's disgusting. And that's Sean in Liverpool. I mean, that's the sort of money you're talking about. Just signing off thousands of pounds. It's unbelievable. That is painful amount of money. Thank you, Sean. Oragel is a very powerful numbing oral gel. I reach for when I have toothache. A tiny amount does a trick while you're waiting to see a dentist. I've never heard of that, but I'm going to write that down. Tristan says, hello Tristan, this is Tristan in Southend. I wish I had some way of taking away Joe's pain. That's the first caller here. This has made me cry hearing it. I hate hearing people in pain like this. It's really upsetting. Please do send her my love. Tristan, you're such a good soul. You really are. It's horrible, isn't it? Just imagining, if you've ever had toothache, imagining somebody in that sort of pain. Stephen says, I went to the dentist in February. I'm still on the waiting list. A tooth needs to come out. Bad toothache. Oh, Stephen, I do feel for you. I don't know if Oragel is a across-the-counter thing, but please be careful with painkillers. Please, because 1 in 3 of the overdoses that you see with paracetamol are people trying to get rid of tooth pain, so please be careful. And Gary said, I had an appointment today. I was in for over an hour, getting root treatment. That is the worst. There's only one. It's the injections, isn't it? If it's on the upper tooth, that injection right up there. Oh, don't. There's only one NHS dentist in my town, so I'm sat here with sore gums. Thankfully, that's me for 6 months. Did you get my parcel? Oh my God, the best parcel ever. It was the best parcel ever, Gary. Thank you so much. You're so kind. It was like having a Christmas stocking. It was brilliant. I got a mug with my mug on it. I don't know where did you find that photograph? Goodness me, that was a while ago. I look quite young and pretty. But thank you for that. And the Ginny Cooper book and some celebration chocolate, which I love, and some treats for my dog and cat. My dogs and cat. I mean, it's the best present ever, Gary. You are so kind. It's really, really touched me. It's very lovely of you. Thank you. Thank you. Very much appreciated. Loved it. And Ernie said, this is a good plan actually. If you're prepared to sign up to a dental training school, once you're accepted, you can get free dental treatment. I did it 6 years ago. I've had fantastic treatment from them over the years. Okay, you're taking a risk having a young, inexperienced trainee taking out teeth and doing fillings. But everyone has to start somewhere, and they're supervised by full-time dentists who give up a few days a week to train them. If I have an emergency, I can call them and they will get me in as soon as possible, as something like that is excellent for their training. It's one way, isn't it? If you don't mind having somebody untrained. Mind you, like you said, they'd have to have somebody there watching over you. So there you go, that's a good idea as well. Thank you for that. Luke is in Bromley. Morning, Luke.
Good morning. Hi.
Good morning. Hi.
I've actually got a bit of a positive story, really. I've been within an NHS dentist for quite some years and they've been fantastic. Over the summer, in fact, I've got a dentist phone in the morning, funny enough, at 10:30. So over the summer, I had a bit of an accident. I was basically on a scooter in a car park and I hit the curb and basically hit my chin, which broke my jaw in 2 places on the back right. It was pretty bad, so I couldn't open my mouth, couldn't swallow, couldn't move, couldn't talk. It was pretty bad. And then I went for 2 months of a lot of pain over the summer. I had to obviously just have liquids only, no chewing, couldn't open my mouth.
Did they wire your jaw closed?
Pretty much. Well, I had 23 screws into my jaw.
Oh, Luke, that sounds awful.
It was under my lips, so you couldn't actually see them, but they were above the teeth and the jaw. And then you put elastic bands on those, hook them on. And they have to be changed every day and a half. So.
Oh my God, that sounds horrendous.
It was really bad. But I can't blame the NHS because I thought they did really well. I mean, look, the evidence came out. Obviously, I was in a bit of a state. I went for all the checks and all the scans and things through the night. Ended up being taken to Denmark Hills hospital there. I can't remember what it's called, but maybe it's called Denmark Hills, I don't know. But yeah, and I had emergency surgery within about a day and a half. And obviously I've got my own challenges too, which is why I had a scooter in the first place, trying to help my mobility. So that comprised of obviously dentist stuff was not great. But I must say that I've always had good dentist care for my NHS.
So you broke your jaw in I can't imagine hitting your chin on
it. I lost chipped a few teeth and lost 2 teeth at the back.
Right.
So at the back, thankfully, because I don't know what it did, but it wasn't great. It's amazing how hard concrete is when you hit it.
Yeah. Crikey.
Yeah, a lot of pain. So I don't fear dentists anymore because I'm feeling so much pain, constantly over the summer. Now I'll just go in and be fine.
It's actually, I think it is. I mean, I don't know about broken jaw, but I know that tooth pain, because it's in your head, right? You just can't get away from it. Yeah.
I'm used to quite a bit of pain, so I learned how to deal with it. So, I mean, pain normally wakes me up in the morning every day with Parkinson's. So it's my alarm clock. So,
But it's a different kind. The tooth pain, I think, is just.
Yeah. Well,
it's on a different level, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's different, isn't it? I mean, the one I have is every muscle and every bone from my body wakes me up in the morning. But this one's very concentrated. Then it's near your jaw is quite something different. It's near your brain and everything. But so the NHS can work, and it does work if you have a willing NHS dentist. I mean, my family have checks. We have 6 monthly checkups. It's not a problem, to be honest. My wife, she had a few issues with her tooth, and we were in a few weeks. So it's not all bad out there. I know.
No, I mean, I have to go. Like I said, my dentist is private, not by choice, but just because that's the way it is. And he's a great dentist. He's a lovely chap. But you know, you're talking about replacing a crown.
Yeah.
$6 grand. It's like, come on.
Yeah, it's saw that a lot of people in the old days, like back in the 17th, 18th century, that died because of bad teeth.
Yeah.
Because they didn't brush them and that, you know, and didn't get work done. Imagine there was 0 dentists back then. So it wasn't like the occasional one. So no hospitals would do it or anything. So people eventually wouldn't be able to eat. And then they
would starve. And that, but that's the barbers used to do it, didn't they? Which is why the red and white barber's striped pole is...
barber doing it.
The barbers used to remove teeth. So that's what the red and white stripe. You know, they see those barbers' poles.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's to indicate that they remove teeth. So it's black. It's red for blood.
That's certainly one way of upsetting. Would you like your teeth done as well, sir?
Yeah, I don't think they do it anymore. But that's where those poles hail from. Because you used to go in to have your short back and sides and a couple of teeth removed.
But I think and so. For the lady who spoke at the beginning, that was really hard to hear, I'll be honest. And I thought, oh boy, you know, to think I had such good service and she hasn't.
I know, it's just heartbreaking, isn't it? There's somebody who's bedbound who's in that much pain.
The harder it is to convince people, because I mean, I can walk in and talk people into things quite easily, and you know, I think people reciprocate of different types of people. And
I completely agree. The whole world is based on if somebody likes you or not.
Sounds a bit, yeah. I mean, you sound a bit posh in that, and I'm not got more spoken, so that helps.
The one thing I'm very pleased that I taught my son was charm and manipulation.
It does help. It does help in life.
I'm telling you, it's the most important thing.
Knowing how far you can push things and not too far, so you're not a pain, but you're a pleasure to be around. You know, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And trying to make them feel good about what they do, not just talk about yourself. They love talking about themselves, people.
And that's how you get people to do your bidding.
Yeah, you ask them what you know, you find out what they're good at, what they like, and talk about that, and then eventually they'll ask you about you.
Yeah.
But and that's what you do on the radio, probably.
Yeah.
It comes down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So my advice to those who aren't paying, because I went for a lot of it wasn't easy. I'm talking nicely of it, and that's because I had a good service, but it's tough for 2 months not eating anything. I mean, you're talking about putting on weight. I'd love to put on some weight because I lost weight.
Yeah.
So if anyone can give me some, because I basically, with Parkinson's, I suppress it by holding back, shaking, or shaking that wears it off. So either way, I'm losing weight. So I'm always having to eat lots.
Yeah.
But
you burn up so much energy.
You do either way. You can't. It's right. Apart from when you sleep, not. But other than that. But there's a really lovely song on YouTube called "In His Hands." If anyone wants to be comforted, feel a bit closer to our Creator, type in His Hands, and there's a lovely song there which hopefully will help people at least feel like, you know, God can help them and give them strength and peace tonight and through the week.
Whatever gets people through the night, right. Luke, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, listen to music, it's great comfort.
Yeah, I love music when I'm feeling a bit like that. Thank you, Luke. It's always lovely to talk to you. I always enjoy it. So thank you for calling in. Right, I've got to take a very quick break, and I'll be back in just a mo.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until the top of the hour, and this is your chance to talk back, and you are doing so. We're talking about this patient watchdog, the Health Watch England, the patient watchdog, has been looking into how access to urgent dental care has been an increasing challenge for people, some forced to travel up to 100 miles to see a dentist, others are forced to go private or travel abroad, or worse, pulling out their own teeth. And the dentist I spoke to earlier said people are using garden tools to pull out their own teeth, and it was so specific. I was wondering which garden tools. I can't figure out which garden tool I would use to pull out a tooth. I mean, I'd use pliers. They're not garden tools. Oh, it's making my teeth hurt. Anyway, can you give it a guess? Which garden tool would you use to pull out a tooth? It was very specific. He said garden tools. I can't think of a single one that would be good for pulling teeth out. But anyway, he's a dentist, he knows. Gary's also said, a dentist making a fortune by scarcity, probably. £95 for a 5-minute checkup. Yeah, that's about what it costs of mine as well. No wonder people don't want to go, right? £100 just to go, yeah, you're fine. No, not doing it. Paul is in Bradford, and Paul's a new caller. Hello, Paul, welcome to the programme.
Good morning, Petrie.
Good morning, it's lovely to speak to you.
You as well.
So, tell me about your teeth.
I was one of these people with terribly bad teeth ever since I was a child. I had false teeth on a plate from the age of about 19 years old.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
It was my 4 top front teeth that were just so decayed that I had to have them pulled out at 19 years old.
Good heavens! Is that like drinking things like fizzy drinks and stuff?
It's multitude of fizzy drinks, too many sweets, and not brushing my teeth properly.
Yeah.
That's all it came down to. It was just I used to brush them once a day rather than twice, and it obviously had a knock-on effect on me in later life.
God, to have a plate at 90. I mean, I had a friend of mine who was mucking around in a swimming pool and caught his tooth. Oh, it makes me gag. Caught his front teeth on the edge of the pool.
Oof.
Oh.
Oof. Yeah, I can only imagine that sort of pain.
Yeah, I know. He lost his 2 front teeth because of that. But anyway, crack on. So you had the 4 front teeth were on a plate.
They were on a plate, and then obviously because I'd had bad teeth, as I was getting older, they were deteriorating more and more, and I started losing teeth on my bottom jaw. And the problem I had then was I couldn't wear a plate on my bottom jaw because it made me gag. Anything like it was. I mean, I even spent my local dentist that I went to. They did some like special like false teeth, which were like flexible.
Right.
They were like really thin and really flexible. That cost me just over £1,000 for a set of them. And I had them in for about 3 hours and took them out and threw them in the bin.
No.
I just could not cope with them, so that was £1,000 down the drain.
But the plate thing, does that not rub on your gums and everything?
No. The bottom one, I didn't have that in long enough to get a good definition of it. The original one that I had on the top, because I'd had it in since I was 19, and I'm like 47 now. It just felt normal. It felt weird when I didn't have it in. I did have to use fixant to create a seal so that you didn't get food underneath it and it didn't fall out.
Well, as a young man, at 19 years old, were you embarrassed? You know, if you met...
Oh, definitely.
You know, if you were in relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite lucky because my wife, we've been together since we were 16 years old.
Oh, right.
So I didn't have, like, the embarrassment of going out and meeting new girlfriends and this and other. And my group of friends that I had all knew that I had bad teeth anyway.
Yeah, right, okay.
But
so
yeah,
that's not so bad then, because imagine having to tell your new girlfriend that you have to take your teeth out at night or something.
Exactly, yeah, yes, and like taking them out and not being able to talk then because you've got this massive lisp because you're used to teeth being there, and when you take them out, it's awful.
Oh, you poor thing.
So, well, not poor thing anymore because I've got a new set of gnashers.
Wow.
So I eventually bit the bullet and decided to go to Turkey. So I made some inquiries, got a quote. They came back with a quote of £8,000.
£8,000 for a whole mouth?
£8,000 for a whole set of implants, top and bottom, yeah. That's not.
I've been quoted £6,000 for one.
Well, exactly. This was £8,000 for what they call all-on-6 implants, top and bottom. So 6 implants in your top jaw, 6 implants in your bottom jaw.
From which they hang multiple teeth or 2 teeth? Yeah.
It's one. It's like a complete set.
Oh, right, yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah, and then it goes up and the faster. But when I got to Turkey, this is a little bit of advice if anybody is actually thinking about going to Turkey for teeth. Get a chuffing x-ray before you go, because I didn't. And then when I got to Turkey, they x-rayed me and found out that because I'd had no teeth since I was 19-year-old in the top jaw, I had severe bone loss.
Oh.
So then I had to go for a bigger operation and different kinds of implants. And that put the price up from £8,000 to, are you sat down, Petrie?
Yeah.
It's $13,500 it cost me. Just for the teeth. And then, obviously, I mean, in total, I think it cost me about 15 to 16 grand. By the time I'd paid for flights, because we had to have 2 visits to Turkey. The first visit was to pull my existing teeth out.
All of them?
Put the implants in. I only had 8 anyway, Petrie.
So they pulled.
I only had 8, but yeah, they pulled all 8 teeth out.
Yeah.
I did actually pay extra as well. It was £900 extra for a general anaesthetic because I've had a dental phobia all my life, and that's sort of like contributed to the bad teeth.
Yeah, of course. No, completely understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to have a general. Well, I didn't have to, but I opted for the general anaesthetic because I'm a little bit of a pussy. So yeah, first visit, they put me to sleep, pulled me 8 teeth out, put the implants in, and then I had the worst 4 months of my life because they gave me some false teeth to wear, but I went back to stage 1 where I couldn't put them in because I was gipping. So I actually went 4 months without any teeth at all.
Oh my gosh, Paul.
So 4 months of pot noodles, Weetabix and soup.
And not smiling. Oh my gosh.
Not smiling, yeah.
But you had these posts in your mouth, so they must have been banging on each other. And
so no, the implants were, what they did, they put the implants in, and then they sort of like sewed my jaw up over the top of the implants, so you couldn't actually see the implants.
Oh, okay.
They were under my gum line.
Yeah, right. But did they because you had bone loss, did you have to have a bone graft on the front?
No, because there was too much bone that had gone.
So what did they do with that?
So I had to have these special implants, which are called, the ones at the front, I ended up having an all-on-4. The ones at the front that go like right up into my nose, they're called transnasal. And they were like extra large, so they screw up into my gum and they go like right up where my nose is, into my nasal cavity.
Right.
And then the back 2 implants at the top, they were called zygomatic implants. And what they do is fuse the implant into my cheekbone.
Wow.
So my back implant